everyone, welcome to GameFace, episode 182 on Sifted Games at sifted.net. I'm Shane Satterfield.
I'm Matt Kyle.
And we're here to bring you the biggest and the best in gaming for the week. It is going to be a gigantic show today, people. We have a ton of topics, and some of them are going to take quite a while to get through. So I don't want to mess around with the pleasantries at the show open as much as we normally do. Just a couple quick updates. Ask Shane Anything questions going up tomorrow. We're going to be doing a new round of that show, so keep an eye out for that. This episode will be on Android tomorrow. So finally, we're going to be on Android. We're already on iTunes. Those of you watching us on YouTube, and if you don't want to watch the video version, just subscribe to our iTunes feed. You'll actually, in a lot of cases, get the audio version on iTunes a little earlier than you'll get the video version on YouTube. And just a big thanks to everybody who's watching the show on all the different outlets. We're going to continue to distribute the show more to other places like Stitcher and things like that. So keep an eye out for that. I know everybody kind of has their favorite podcast app that they use, and we're trying to get out there on all of them so that we're servicing everyone.
Something happened to my glasses. I don't know what's going on.
Are they fogging?
They're super, greasy or something.
Oh.
I don't know.
Well, the good news is you don't need to see now to do the show.
I can't read the chat.
Oh. You can always read it over here on my PC.
I can't read the chat. I can't see that far.
Oh, that's right.
There we go.
All right. Anyway, like I said, I don't want to spend too much time on the open because we have a lot to get to in this episode to get it all done before our allotted time is up. So we're just going to kick things straight off. We're going to talk first about Tokyo Game Show. Tokyo Game Show wrapped up on Sunday, so it's only been a couple days since it finished. We did do a preview for TGS last week on the show. We also did a top 10 most anticipated games for TGS. And as it turns out, that list was pretty good. Our Gamescom wasn't quite as good because a lot of the games that we brought up weren't shown or didn't have as big a presence as we thought. That was not the case with Tokyo Game Show. We pretty much nailed the 10 biggest games from the show. And there were details released for pretty much all of them. So we're not going to talk about everything TGS, so if we leave something out that really struck your fancy, I apologize. But again, we have a big episode today, so we're just going to hit the really big stuff. And there was some really big stuff at TGS. First up, the Final Fantasy VII Remake. Matt, did you get to watch the trailer that they released for that?
Yeah. Not with sound, but I did get to see it.
Oh, why not with sound?
I was in a medical waiting zone. I couldn't watch it with sound, but I watched it with subtitles.
Yeah. So what were your impressions of that trailer? Pretty revealing.
Yeah, I mean, it's again, it's very pretty, and you can recognize the various moves and stuff in it. It's nice to see something beyond just the opening dungeon.
Yeah. Just snippets, though. They didn't show much.
Snippets, but you got to see Rufus and those guys, and a little, some of the more kind of secondary characters, not just the party members, and sort of how they're going to play the drama between them, which is obviously a little more production value heavy than what we got in 1997.
Yeah, for sure.
It's obviously more expressive than the mouthless faces with no fingers and all that. It's just interesting to see that stuff sort of
come to
presented
life
properly.
Yeah. How do you well, you didn't get to hear it with the audio on. A lot of people were complaining about the voice acting. And if you didn't listen to the trailer, you may not have picked up on it. But this whole trailer really is kind of an English voice acting trailer. The first 45 seconds is just one voice clip after another kind of cut together like machine gun fire. And I think anytime you do that, it's a little tough to watch. And kind of the big reaction on Sifted, at least, was that people were like, oh, so much voice acting, and I'm not a big fan of it. I think the bigger problem isn't the voice acting, though. It's the writing. It's the lines in the game. I think...
I mean, it's Square.
It's
I think also it's a Japanese RPG with a dramatic anime style story, and they're just going to be like that. I mean, I've been going through that playing Demon X Machina too. It's just there's a certain, some would call it heightened. I would call it bad.
Yeah.
Yakuza sounds like that when you dub it into English too. The original PS2 version was dubbed in English, and they had some good. I mean, Mark Hamill was in that. It still was terrible. It just doesn't match.
It's the writing, I think, though, is the problem. And the first game, it wasn't all voiced. So
It wasn't voiced at all.
So a lot of this stuff you're hearing for the first time with a voice actor saying it, and sometimes when you say something,
the script is definitely different. I mean, it's not the same lines as the
Some of them are.
Some of them are, but
some of them they grabbed literally word for word from the original.
I can't. I'm wondering how. I'm sure Cloud will say "Let's mosey" at some point.
Yeah, I mean the iconic stuff for sure.
They'll find a way to work in "This guy are sick" one way or the other.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I mean, this pretty. I didn't see the whole voice cast, but it seemed pretty standard dubbing people. So I'm.
The voice. It wasn't the voice acting. It was the script. It was the lines that they were reading.
But that's been Square's problem for years. I mean, Final Fantasy 15 has the same problem. The writing's terrible.
I mean, in this trailer, there's and
it doesn't have to be
seconds.
terrible. You can make it good, but they just don't. They don't get. I don't know if it's not good writers or they hamper the writers attempting to localize. They do that thing where Kojima wants everything to be more of a direct translation of the original script as opposed to a localized thing that makes more sense. Reminder that without localization and changing things, we wouldn't have codec. The word codec.
True,
we wouldn't have any. I mean, that script that Kojima hates so much invented a lot of what American English-speaking Metal Gear fans kind of associate with as trademarks of the series now.
Yeah.
It's a good thing to localize something to feel normal to the audience you're trying to localize it for. It's not a bad thing. It's not a bad thing that they put eyebrows and different eyes on Ratchet and the Japanese Ratchet and Clanks to make him more appealing to that audience. That's what you're supposed to do.
Yeah.
So it's weird to me that Square is so far, even though the production value is so high, Square is so far behind the times in terms of presenting.
Square Japan, for sure.
Yeah. I mean, you don't get that in Tomb Raider.
Right.
You don't get that in their Western.
You would think that they would start working with some of their Western studios.
And honestly, you don't get it in Dragon Age 11. I didn't. Yeah. I mean, that's still pretty standard.
I haven't played a ton of that.
That's still pretty standard anime dub work, but the writing isn't bad. It doesn't feel like these actors are struggling to deliver this thing that no one would ever say out loud. Most of it is pretty solid. Whereas this, especially because it looks so good, I think you're having trouble.
Expectations for. Yeah.
It's just this it's the one thing that's not ringing correctly, and they got time to do a rewrite, but if they've already recorded it, odds are we're not going to get that.
Yeah. There are definitely 4 or 5 cringe-worthy lines in that trailer. And that trailer is only 90 seconds long. It is just one voice clip after another, so they're kind of setting themselves up for failure with the way they cut it. But yeah, there's few lines in there.
It was illuminating to play the remaster of Final Fantasy VIII recently, and realize that a lot of the reason I think I've said it before, but one of the reasons I think a lot of JRPG stuff, especially Square stuff from this sort of PlayStation era where everything got really convoluted and pretentious in the wake of Evangelion's popularity, I think one of the reasons that it hasn't made the transition to modern stuff very well is because all that stuff works better in your head. If you just read the text and make it work in your head, it doesn't feel as ridiculous as when someone has to say it out loud and you have to hear it.
Yeah.
And also when you're hearing it just in the foreign language, even if it's subtitled, like in the Yakuza, it works in its advantage. And sometimes you can make bad writing sound better to a foreign ear if they don't understand the language, which is how Shenmue USA happened.
Yeah.
Shenmue USA was a Dreamcast release of the English dub, famously ridiculous English dub of Shenmue 1 that Yu Suzuki heard and thought sounded better than the Japanese one. So he wanted to release it in Japan so the Japanese audience could experience a better version of Shenmue. And I'm just like, are you out of your mind? No. And then I remember when that happened, it made me start wondering, what if all these Japanese anime dubs I think are better than the American dubs are actually just as bad?
Right. You don't know.
And I don't know because I can't understand it. So all I hear is tone.
It could be.
I'm making the line make sense in my head by reading the subtitle, and there you go.
Yeah.
I'm sure because of Square's track record recently that you will also be able to play this in Japanese with subtitles. I'm sure they've usually done that. So if the English dub is just not okay to your brain, I'm sure there will be a solution for that in terms of the Japanese acting.
Yep. A couple other things
They've always done that.
They showed some mini games, which you just saw there. They were at the pull-up bar doing mini game.
Exactly what I wanted from a Final Fantasy VII remake.
But they did show turn-based combat.
Yes.
So there's going to be an option to kind of play it like the original.
Yeah, I really strongly wonder if this was there from the beginning. Or
I'm sure it was.
Or if they did it because there's been a lot of screaming about the
It's not
action-based
exactly
combat.
like the original. I mean, it was a very short clip.
But it means like you don't have to be I mean, I don't think you don't have to be an action game master to finish this on hard, frankly. But options are never bad. Accessibility is never bad. I'm one of the weirdos who thinks that it would be fine if you put an easy mode in Dark Souls. Like, I don't care. I think the accessibility mode or whatever in Death Stranding sounds great. Like, the more you can do that, the better.
They also showed the first in-game summons. And it's not this crazy, elaborate, over-the-top thing coming from the heavens, striking a lightning bolt. It's like it happens on the battlefield, which means that maybe it's going to actually be a prominent part of the play instead of just being this like unicorn that happens every one. Like in Final Fantasy 15, I don't even know if you got far enough to get them.
I finished Final Fantasy 15.
Oh, okay. Wow. I'm surprised to hear that. I didn't know that.
I hated it from start to finish.
So then like the summons in that game were just like these novelty tricks, basically. It's like, hey, here it is, and it wipes everything out, and then it's over.
My favorite Final Fantasy summon, which is Leviathan, wasn't even... It was just a cutscene.
Right
before the game got really bad.
Yeah. That's true. I mean, they were just CG sequences in the original. So it looks like the summons might be these functional parts of combat instead of just this.
I mean, they have,
spectacle.
with the exception of Final Fantasy 15 in that regard, they did. I think Square has done a good job of moving the summons from like just a big one-hit shot to from after 7 to moving them to be more of a
something more strategic.
8 tried to make them interactive by making you hammer that square button for a while. But then, like by 10, you were kind of swapping them in as like sort of like almost upgrades to the character. It was they've tried to kind of find a way to make that more than just a cinematic sequence for a long time. So that doesn't surprise me. And it looked good. Yeah, it was Shiva, right?
Yeah.
It looked good. I am curious what Leviathan will look like. I always like the Leviathan.
I think most people find that to be their favorite.
Yeah. Or will Sephiroth still destroy the solar system?
Right.
Did he destroy Pluto in the original one? Because we have to change
now. What's he gonna do?
Also, why does that make it? Does it take place on Earth?
Yeah, exactly.
Like what?
Don't ask too many questions, Kyle. It all starts to fall apart when you do that.
This just raises more questions than answers.
Let's see. Next up, Death Stranding had its biggest coming out party ever. And first he showed 50-plus minutes of gameplay.
Despite him asking you not to watch it if you intend to play it anyway.
Right. He's like, don't watch these demos, fans.
Yeah.
So who's supposed to watch it then?
The people who aren't sure, who have 50 minutes to spare for a game they may or may not be interested in.
Yeah, very bizarre. I did watch it, and what I saw was pretty disappointing, I
watched some of it. I didn't watch all of it. I mean, there was like 80 minutes of footage total across the whole show.
Yeah.
And like, ain't nobody got time for that. But like,
we need that meme to throw up on during the show.
But like, it's just, it's bizarre. The whole thing is bizarre. The survival aspect. I mean,
it's a survival game.
I mean, I knew when they showed him peeing that I
kind of had
there's no way Kojima's gonna let you pee without creating the pee somehow. So clearly, you had to at least drink something in the game. So yeah, I feel while it doesn't like turn me off, it's not going to stop me from playing it. In part, I mean, it wouldn't stop me from playing it in the sense that we're going to have to talk about the stupid thing
for the next 3 months.
But like, it wouldn't, if I wasn't doing this for a show, I would also probably still play it just out of like morbid curiosity at the very least. But I do feel kind of vindicated in having spent literal years looking at all the media for this and being like, I'm not excited. I don't know what it is, and I don't trust the man.
Yeah.
And here we are.
I mean, as it turns out, it's like a hardcore survival sim where you're not only maintaining your character, making sure that he's fed and he has drinks, and then ultimately relieving himself, and you also have to maintain the baby. So the baby will start getting pissed off.
It's an unofficial sequel to Metroid Other M.
Yeah, you have to sit down and like play harmonica for the baby, and the baby will like dance around in like the little enclosure. The whole game is driven by satisfying the needs of humanity. To me, that is
the anti-video game.
Yeah, to me, this is a huge turnoff. If you watch GameFace, or if you've even watched me back in the GT days on Invisible Walls, you know I am not a survival game fan. It is not something I enjoy doing. I do not like looking at like 8 different meters and being like, oh my God, his feet are sore. And that's another part of the game. Like your feet get like beat up and bleed. Like the big part of the demo showed him taking off his shoes and his feet are just like a bloody mess. Like
you can tell this game was made by someone who's been in the city for his whole life. Like,
yeah, pretty much, yeah.
What an amazing gameplay element. You hurt your feet by stepping on grass. The ladder thing's cool, though.
I guess.
I mean, it's a cool visual effect.
Oh, sure.
It's a cool gameplay.
Well, I don't know if you heard or not, but another thing that they showed is a very Dark Souls, Bloodborne-ish online functionality. Yeah. So as you go through the world, people can leave traces behind of what they've done.
Yeah, which is another element of like, oh, it's a brand new. Is it a brand new way to play a video game, or is it just your version of Dark Souls mingle player? I mean, that seems like it feels done.
Yeah, well, they didn't go into much details. They just kind of showed it.
I mean, that's the Strand thing, right?
It is, yeah. I mean, that's the connective part of it that he's been talking about all this time. I don't know if there's going to be more to it, but what they showed was pretty flimsy. Like, you can see ladders from players who came before you. You can see, like, the silhouette of the ladder. I mean, it should help you play the game.
Yeah. So is the premise that, like, there's like, an infinite number of Norman Reeduses, or...
No, I don't think
you're supposed to have just been other people doing your job in your universe.
Yeah, because he's not the only courier.
Right. But they are, in fact, other people playing as Norman Reedus. Just
leaving their traces
debris
behind.
in your game.
Pretty much, yeah.
To make it basically flesh it out.
Yep.
I mean, that could help with making the open world feel more populated or cluttered or so. At least feels
alive.
Like other things are in it.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're just walking.
Yeah, but I would say after a TGS, my hype levels, and this game's only about 6 weeks away at this point, by the way. It's pretty crazy to think about. But my hype for this game went way down after a Tokyo Game Show. I'm sad to say it. I was really excited for this, and I am always willing to try something new, and I will play this just because it at least has the veneer of something different or new, although I feel like ultimately I might be disappointed.
I mean, I at least don't look at it like I look at Borderlands 3.
Yeah.
It's just like, well, I haven't done that before.
Yeah.
I don't know if I want to do it at all.
Yeah.
But it's not a repetition. I mean, it does feel like maybe this is full of a lot of ideas he had for Metal Gear Solid 5 that they wouldn't let him do.
Yeah.
Because it would explain why the open world exists in Metal Gear Solid 5.
And why it's so boring.
Why there's nothing to do in it between, like, mission locations.
Yeah.
So I can see that, but, like, I don't know. It makes me wonder, like, can you sell 10 million of these? Maybe you don't tell people too much.
We talk about certain developers and publishers that get bumped from the press usually. I don't know that there's one bigger than Hideo Kojima.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, the game is going to review really well, I think, no matter what.
I mean, I think you get bumps for, like, Miyamoto stuff or, like, stuff like that. But, like, the thing is, as far as I'm concerned, like, Miyamoto can back the hype.
Right.
Whereas, like,
he delivers, yeah.
Yeah, Kojima...
He delivers in patches. It's spotty.
Like, he delivers if your expectations are of a certain level.
Yeah.
And if you are familiar enough to know what you're going to get.
Yeah.
And even then, sometimes you're like, wait, why does Metal Gear Solid... Why did you go so far to recast Snake, and then he barely says anything?
Yeah. With an expensive voice actor.
Yeah.
Kiefer Sutherland. It's like, you paid him a ton of money for that, and I don't know why.
You could have gotten, like, David Hayter for, like, a week for one day at Kiefer Sutherland.
Pretty much.
Like,
pretty much. So anyway, that's Death Stranding at Tokyo Game Show. I was hoping for a much better showing than we got.
I mean, it's not. I can't say they didn't show you what it is now.
Yeah, I mean, it's there. Now you know.
It's all on the table.
Yep, you can make a purchase decision knowing what the game is, and if you get burned by it, it's your fault or our fault. But for telling people what it is or misinterpreting what it is.
And if you point the camera at his crotch too long, he punches you.
That's right. Yeah, the other thing that they showed was him in, like, his safe house or whatever, and all the different stuff that goes on there. It's pretty in-depth and elaborate. It doesn't look like a whole lot of fun, but it's curious and strange, I guess is the best way to put it. Kind of like this whole game, really. Curious and strange.
Cradling an invisible baby with a woman whose expertise
Just look at that scene.
Expertise implies that she's, like,
18
in her 40s, but she looks about 17.
Yeah.
Like, it's
pretty bizarre. That's one thing I will say. The game is still bizarre.
Yeah.
That's one thing that hasn't been squashed throughout all the showings for the last 6
Invisible
months.
Baby go.
And then, yeah, you can see it with this little projector thingy, or you can't. I don't know. Anyway, that's Death Stranding.
Is that what the projector things are for? Or have they got into that?
They detect like the supernatural beings. Yeah, But I guess
they're
they're
basically your radar, I guess.
Yeah, that's pretty much how it works. But yeah, I don't know. I hope other people are still excited. Like, I'm kind of bummed now because I was really excited to play this game, and now I'm not that excited to play it.
I was never excited to play it.
I know.
So
you've been consistent the whole way through. Absolutely. No doubt about it.
Nothing's changed. I'm still on the track.
I've been like a seesaw going up and down like ever since this thing was announced, and now I'm on the downside. So I don't know what it's going to take here in the last 6 weeks to get me back on the upswing, but it's going to have to
flip out one of those extending ladders and get back up to the top of the hype mountain.
Exactly. Let's see. Next up, this next game we're going to talk about wasn't a Tokyo Game Show game per se, but Nintendo kind of hijacked Tokyo Game Show to show this, to unveil this. Nintendo never has a big presence in TGS.
They like to unveil stuff that week just by coincidence.
Yeah, like even with the Switch, it still doesn't have a big Tokyo Game Show presence. You would think that like with the Wii or the Switch, when they have big hits, that they would roll into TGS and like blow it up, but that's not what Nintendo does. Instead, it likes to play on the built-in organic traffic that TGS generates to get people to get their eyeballs on what it's working on. And we mentioned this game last week in the show. They had put out kind of a teaser trailer for it, but at TGS they unveiled the whole thing, and it is called Ring Fit Adventure. It's the game we showed last week that has like the weird ring that you squeeze together, and we assumed you're going to exercise with it. Well, you do.
It's a fitness RPG.
It is, but it's also like a turn-based RPG that you play with the ring.
With these completely legitimate real people.
Yeah, I had to actually cut out, when I was working on this B-roll for the show, I cut out the first like 45 seconds with those two. I was like, nobody wants to see this. But anyway, you snap the Joy-Cons into the ring, and you have another band that you can see there. You put around your thigh, and you run, you jump, you squeeze the ring to do certain things. I'm sure there's going to be a lot more for this peripheral than just this game, but this is kind of its big, I don't know, Trojan horse.
I feel like I'm being initiated into a cult.
They do look like cult members.
Like there's something blank in the eyes on these two that really like sets my fight or flight off.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I mean, I will say this, that ring looks like it has some crazy technology in it because it can sense how hard you're squeezing it. And you can also adjust the tension on it, so it's harder to squeeze together as you get stronger and you get better, I guess.
I guess this is just like, you got to let the weirdo waggle Wii team out of the closet every once in a while and let them do something. I guess this is it now.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's better than Wii Fit.
Yeah.
I'll say that.
I mean, I'm mildly interested in this. I'll probably get this, really. I make anything into an RPG, and I'm going to, like, notice.
Yeah, basically. I'll at least give it a shot. And it is funny. The turn-based RPG has turned into, like, the de facto Trojan horse in the gaming industry. It is a pretty easy...
It's like endless mobile games with microtransactions. Like, it's the way you get in.
It's pretty easy to create turn-based RPGs as well.
And it's pretty easy to play them. Like
it is, yeah.
And it's funny because there was that period of time in the old days when, like, turn-based RPGs were like, oh, nobody plays that. Like, that takes time and effort. Like, and now it's just like, oh no, it's super simple. You just pull out your phone, play, you're done. So yeah, it makes sense that's and then like you mix it in with these mini games, which are very Wii Sports-ish.
Well, this stuff here is like how you get from like one battle to another.
Yeah,
like you have to run and.
Well, I mean, it's kind of the dirty little secret, isn't it? It's like if you look at like how like RPGs and like action adventure stuff happens, like. You would have to be in such good shape to do what video game characters do. Not even like the fighting and the flipping and the
just getting there.
Just how long we make these characters run.
Yeah, it is pretty crazy to think about. Well, you're gonna think about it while you're playing this. You're gonna be like, "Dang, man! Like you run a long ways in this game." But look, Wii Fit to me was like bare bones for like fitness gaming. It's like do push-ups, do sit-ups, like.
Yeah.
This has you doing all that stuff, but there's a purpose to it. I'm surprised they never kind of extrapolated the original Wii Fit balance board into something more along these lines. It only got, like an extra 2 apps besides Wii Fit
something like
that it really worked with. So this looks like the natural evolution of Wii Fit and a lot more interesting to me. The peripheral looks cool. I need to get in shape, so maybe this is like This is nature calling to me, saying, Shane, maybe this is what you need to do to finally get your fat ass in shape. So I'm more excited for this than I thought I would be, for sure. Like, when we saw it last week and looked at it, I was like, oh, God. Like, I had no interest in it at that point. And now, not really that way. I'm pretty excited for it. This trailer is like 7 minutes long, so they definitely debuted it like with plenty of information and details. Unlike Kojima,
Nintendo. How long before that character gets in a Smash?
Yeah. Oh, you're right though. She will be in. She's probably the next DLC character in Smash.
Yeah. Or she could be like an echo of Wii Fit Trainer.
Right. That's probably what will happen actually. And Smash at TGS, like there was some news, like just basically saying more DLC characters are coming. He made some statement about how.
Come on in, just put your keys in the bowl. It's fine.
He made some comment. Sakurai made some comment about Iwata and about how that was the last thing that he tasked him with before he died. He's like, make sure Smash is great, and that was pretty heartfelt. But there's more and more DLC characters coming for that.
Oh yeah.
And then maybe someday Sakurai can actually take a vacation. And maybe if he does that, the next Smash might be something different. Actually,
I don't think that would go over.
It might be asking for too much. But
the last DLC character will be Sakurai.
It should be. It should be.
He'll just digitize himself into the
game. Mean, he said he's quitting on that franchise how many times now, and he keeps coming back. This might actually be the last one now that Iwata's gone. Because I guess Iwata made him promise that he'd finish the game and do his best. So, hard to argue that he did anything but.
Yeah, you gotta eat your vegetables when your dad tells you to do it on the deathbed.
That's right. So, that's Ring Fit Adventure. Next up, the next Yakuza game, Yakuza Like a Dragon. Which, Yakuza Like a Dragon is the name of the film that the game series was originally based on. Is that correct?
No. There is a movie of the game series, but it's not what it was based on. Like a Dragon is the original title of the game series in Japan. It's called Like a Dragon.
There is a film called Yakuza Like a Dragon.
Yeah, but it's based on the games.
It is?
Yeah.
Interesting. I thought that it had come before the games.
I mean, it is based on a lot of various Yakuza movies, but not one specific as far as I know.
Okay.
But they did make a Yakuza movie called Like a Dragon.
Oh, gotcha.
Because that's
what I saw.
It's literally, the series is not called Yakuza in Japan. It's just called Ryuga Gotoku, which is Like a Dragon.
Yeah.
So now this one's called... in America, it's going to be called Yakuza 7, Like a Dragon. So
in Japan, it's Yakuza 7, Like a Dragon.
It's also
here. It's just Yakuza.
It's just Yakuza?
Yeah,
I heard it the other
7.
way around.
Yeah, well, you'll see in this trailer, like the 7 comes up in the Japanese logo, but here it's just Yakuza Like a Dragon. That's what Sega said in its press release that they sent us, anyway, which is weird. Yeah. Like, why?
I mean, it's a break in the series, so it's not like. It's also weird because Like a Dragon specifically refers to Kiryu.
Yeah,
because that's his name,
right?
And so, but now it's a different protagonist.
Yes, a brand new.
I mean, it makes sense to have a break between.
Well, they finished the arc,
the end of the Kiryu stories,
yeah,
and the beginning of the new stories, but I don't know. Like, we'll see how it is.
I like the b-boy breakdancing turn-based combat. That definitely hooked me. I was like, hey.
Well, I'm not against the turn-based stuff. Like, I think you might as well change it up.
I mean, it was kind of heading that direction already with like the support stuff that it had.
And you've taken the action combat about as far as it'll go.
Yeah,
and like. You might as well do something different. Like, this is a kind of might be a fun thing to be able to do things you couldn't do before. Certainly, the lobster summon is pretty great.
Yeah.
Like it lets you have a little more fun and a little more like wackiness. So I got nothing against that.
I mean, I like this franchise for that because there aren't enough open world action adventures that have fun. They're all too serious. You get Saints Row and you get Grand Theft Auto, and everything else is just life or deathly serious. So it's good to see more franchises that try to poke some fun at it and have some fun, in all honesty. And I'll say this game looks fun. All the stuff that they show in it is like, what? That's interesting. That's cool. Like, I don't know. It looks like it's the next evolution of the franchise. And
dramatic test-taking.
Yeah, and a real evolution. Not a revolution, but an evolution at least, which I think the series needed at this point. Despite the fact that it's this franchise that for whatever reason everybody on Sifted loves. It's crazy. Like anytime something new comes out for Yakuza, it immediately, if you go to like the most popular page, it's there. People love it. It's been interesting to watch.
God.
Yeah, I think this looks cool, man. I'm probably more excited for this than I have been since maybe like the second Yakuza. Because after that, I kind of checked out a little bit and stopped playing them. But this looks like it might get me back in. So I'm pretty excited for it. and it had a good showing at Tokyo Game Show. There's also a ton of gameplay for it that they showed. You can check that out on Sifted. Just go to the game page and sift it by gameplay. And there's like a 10-minute chunk of the game that they played during a stage show. So if you want to see more, head over there and check it out. Next up, the game that we talked about a lot last week, and it was number one in our most anticipated game list for Tokyo Game Show, and that is Project Resistance, which is, as we guessed, it was a Left 4 Dead style clone. And as it turns out, that's exactly what it is. The crazy part about all this is, so they showed the crap out of it at Tokyo Game Show. There's literally like an hour of gameplay on Sifted for this already. Capcom still has not committed to releasing this, Matt.
It's just like a, what do you
it's
think?
Like a test, yeah. And they're doing a closed beta in like a week for it.
Interesting.
Yeah.
When I understand, like someone actually plays as Mr. X?
Yeah.
Like it's an asymmetrical thing?
Yeah, so Mr. X also isn't Mr. X. As it turns out, he's it turns out he's a robot. Which actually makes way more sense to me.
At that point, you might as well make it the dog from the end of Silent Hill 2.
Or tofu. A piece of tofu. How awesome would that be?
Mastermind of the entire Resident Evil franchise turns out to be Hunk all along.
Yeah, so you're right, though. It is a bit asymmetrical. Like, one player can play as Mr. X, which gives it a little bit of a twist. But again, this is stuff that we've been doing for a while now. Maybe it might be nice to get a polished one, because a lot of these games that we've been getting have been from smaller studios.
Yeah, like the last one was that we really had an ambition to it, like a AAA space, is probably Fable Legends, which
never even released. Yeah. We've had a couple, that obviously Evolve was really the first stab at it, and that was a big budget game.
Yeah.
But the rest have come from...
Which demoed real well, but didn't survive contact with the real world.
It didn't. And then, the real prominent ones, like Friday the 13th, that's made by, like, some little dinky studio.
Yeah.
And it was, like, a broken mess for, like, the first however long.
Yeah, I mean, I think the king of this kind of thing is still Dead by Daylight at this point. They're doing very well. They got tons of content, very healthy player base. But it's a very repetitive game.
Yeah.
But the question becomes, like, is the repetition, is the fact that you do the same thing over and over again no matter who the villain is that why it's successful? Because people know what's expected of them. Like, if you complicate that too far, do you lose the appeal? Which I guess is what the beta might be testing. But
here's a funny quote from Justin Horman in the chat. They should just make Mr. X Terry Crews and have him screaming at you about body wash the entire time he's chasing you. Old Spice.
I think there's a lot of potential unrealized in the genre at this point.
Yeah. I mean, look, it's still young.
Yeah.
And again, I want to see a big budget.
He looks like a berserk Eddie Valiant.
Yeah.
Tunes.
Yeah. Are you excited for this game at all, if it ever comes out?
No. Not in any way.
Do you like asymmetrical multiplayer games?
I like the idea of them, but I've never enjoyed one.
You know what? Oddly enough, I think the one I enjoyed the most was probably Friday the 13th. And it's a broken mess, but I love the IP. And I've been a Friday the 13th fan since I was like 8. So I have an affinity for it, and I think that's why I give it a pass for... I mean, it is broken. Like,
I definitely enjoyed
when I played it, it was straight up broken.
I definitely like the free-form aspect of Friday the 13th more than like Dead by Daylight, where it's just that sort of by rote, go fix generator, go fix generator, go fix generator, now leave sort of thing.
I mean, Friday the 13th does that too.
It does.
Like, you have to fill up the car with gas.
Right, but there's multiple ways to get out, and they're not all the same thing.
It's true.
Like, it's like, you have to figure out the lay of the land, where everything is, what you have access to, and what the best option would be right now, based on where you are and who you get to work with and whose skills are what.
Yeah.
And there's a sense of ownership in Dead by Daylight as you upgrade your characters as permanent and stuff like that. But like, I just never found the idea of like you're just doing the exact same thing every single time, no matter what the killer is, to be interesting. And I thought Friday the 13th changed it up a lot better, but it just never had a chance because they hit licensing and rights issues like pretty early in the life of the game.
Yeah.
And that's just sort of, it was the end of that.
And it ruined a lot of the DLC, and
yeah,
they had a rough road with that game. And the game was really rough. When I played it at launch, it was like a broken mess. Like, I remember one time we had filled up the car with gas, and we were getting ready to like take off, and you just see Jason just skating across the top of the lake like 1,000,000 miles an hour, and he catches us and like kills us. I was like, what just happened? Like, that kind of stuff was happening all the time. I haven't played it for a while. They may have fixed it now, but it was the one I had the most fun with. It definitely wasn't the most polished or the best crafted or anything like that.
No.
I just like the IP. So maybe this game is something that, with a budget behind it and an IP that I care about. Maybe
my eye for this will still remain on Predator.
Yeah, hunting grounds.
That's a more interesting idea. I don't care about more slow, clunky zombie stuff.
Yeah, I mean, it looks like Mr. X is really the only thing that makes it Resident Evil. There's zombies in it, but it's not like Resident Evil owns zombies or anything, or it has even a signature style of zombie.
I mean, I think it's probably good that they're looking at it as a proof of concept right now, because I don't see this being particularly impactful were it to be released to market.
Yeah, I have a feeling it might just end up being like a free-to-play game where people pay for hats.
Capcom's showing was really pretty lackluster.
Oh, it was terrible. For Tokyo Game Show?
Yeah.
That was terrible.
Their adult conference or whatever that was, where it was just talking about the ports of Resident Evil 5 and 6, and it was all stuff everybody'd seen before. It was nothing. It was absolutely nothing.
They're surfing on that Monster Hunter money. They don't care, man. They're just like, whatever, we're good. They don't need to release anything new. They just put out that expansion. It's going to sell like crazy. And or wait, is the expansion is out?
Ice was it Icebound? Iceborne.
Yeah, which looks like it's doing pretty well so far. It got great reviews. So
I still can't.
Yeah.
I don't like those games. Those are the biggest. The Monster Hunter games are the biggest. I wish I liked this, but I don't. Games.
Yeah.
I just can't.
I played one for a really long time, and I felt no need to play anymore.
Mm-hmm.
It's I played it for 80 hours, and I was like, that's it. They haven't really evolved it since then.
Yeah, I mean, World is definitely the best iteration of the concept.
Sure. Yeah.
But
if you've been playing it all along, it's not. It wasn't enough for me to get hooked again. But there's a lot of people who did.
Oh yeah,
it's sold very, very well. Next up, the new Guilty Gear, definitely the marquee fighting game that was at Tokyo Game Show. Before the show, the lead developer of Guilty Gear said it was going to be a huge departure for the franchise. They were turning it on its head. It was, at this point, even after Tokyo Game Show, it's still called New Guilty Gear. They haven't given it a subtitle or anything.
Well, that's because they got to make up some weird combination of consonants that can't be pronounced by anybody.
Right.
It doesn't happen overnight.
It has to have a colon and a semicolon and random intercaps and
a symbol that you pronounce a way that you've never pronounced that symbol before.
Yeah.
Guilty Gear pound prime hashtag accent core, but accent core is just an apostrophe.
Right. Yeah.
It's all right.
What do you think of what they've shown of this so far?
Oh, it's gorgeous.
Yeah, it's beautiful, isn't it?
I like Guilty Gear. I like BlazBlue as well, but I like Guilty Gear all the way from I remember the first time I played it was the first game on PlayStation 1. It was PlayStation 1.
That sounds right. Yeah.
I went into the import shop back when you had local import shops, and the woman who owned it, Natty, she owned it was a place, it was called Network Video in Burlingame, and Natty owned it, and she was a middle-aged Indian woman from India, Asian India, and she was a trained expert jeweler, and she came over here and opened a video store and fell in love with video games and started selling import games.
Wow.
And she knew games as well as any of us.
Wow, that's awesome.
We go in and talk about games, and she'd just be like, "Oh, such a good game!" All she did, she loved them.
That's great.
Them. And eventually, she moved back to India and continued being a jeweler there,
where she made real money.
She did, yeah. But for a few years there, she ran the best import store in the Bay Area. And I came in one day, and I was just looking around, and she's like, "I have a game for you. You're going to love it because I know you buy all the fighting games. This Guilty Gear thing, just get it right now. Get it right now. I'll give you $10 off if you buy it right now. And you go home and try it. I guarantee you." And I took it home, and she was completely right.
Yeah.
And I was a Guilty Gear fan from then on.
That's awesome. Do you see anything in this trailer? Because they didn't really give up a lot of information about it.
The characters look bigger. It might just be that the angle zoomed in for the trailer, but the characters look bigger, and it almost has a vibe to me of the new Samurai Showdown. There's less there's the combos are still there, but there's less launching and aerial stuff, and it feels like a lower to the ground, chunkier take on it outside of that, which is clearly a kind of a self-contained cinematic thing. The verticality is a little more limited, and it's a little more cinematic. So I would say if they're going to change it up like that, they're probably going to go in something of a Samurai Showdown direction with it.
It also looks like there might be some kind of a clash mechanic where you come together. Was it the last Soul Calibur that did that?
Yeah, they've done stuff like that before. None of it's really worked tremendously well. But I'm interested to see what they do with it. the so-called anime fighters have sort of been the same thing over and over again for a long time with better and better graphics and more characters. I'm curious to see what the roster looks like if they're redoing it this hard. Like, are they going to pare the roster back down because everybody's kind of got their favorites? Like, the idea of removing characters from Guilty Gear is, I mean, obviously you're probably going to do that anyway to sell its DLC, but like, you're going to have a lot of angry fans on your hand if you cut this character and keep this character, cut this character. But I think it looks great, and I pretty much trust those guys to do what they think is best for the series.
Yeah, that team's been together for a long time.
So yeah, I'm looking forward to more of it. I wish we got more details on here, but I didn't really expect any.
Yeah, he did an interview with Famitsu, but didn't give up a whole lot of details about it still. So.
Well, it's there. It's coming. It's nice to know.
Yep, still shrouded in secrecy. Next up, this was maybe the biggest shocker from Tokyo Game Show. Castlevania Grimoire of Souls was shown. This game has had no media. And in fact, we're about to show the trailer, which I can pretty much guarantee is going to throw up copyright strikes on YouTube. So subscribers, patrons, enjoy watching the video of this game, because the folks who are going to watch this on YouTube, it's going to be all blacked out. I guarantee it. What do you think?
Nope.
No. You're not a fan.
It's just that co-op. To me, it looks like that co-op game. Remember that co-op game on Xbox Live? Was it Harmony of Dissonance?
Oh, yeah.
Whatever that was.
Yeah.
It reminds me of that because it's a mobile game.
Yeah.
Right? I think it's going to be like kind of like a weird bite-sized thing. I don't know.
It's got like an all-star cast. Sometimes that's a bad omen.
Yeah, well, because it means that they're not going to design these levels to be as precise as they could, because you have to make it so
work for all of them.
Anyone can get through it.
Yep. It also means that the story probably is completely irrelevant.
Yeah, well,
because when you start bringing all these characters together, you have to try to rationalize it some way.
Yeah, well, it looks like pretty standard kind of mobile game stuff. You have the co-op play with that, which is that's why I say it reminds me of whatever that. I can't remember what the name of the Harmony of Dissonance, or there was a. That might be the second Game Boy Advance game.
It was, yeah.
It was because it was the other the multiplayer game is HD as well, because it was HD.
Harmony of Distance. I actually have a signed copy of
Harmony
that
of
from
Despair.
Maybe. Let's see what chat says. Harmony of Despair.
Yeah.
Yep.
The 360 game was Harmony of Despair.
Yeah. Even he was saying something HD.
Yeah.
That's funny. Thanks, Justin Horman.
And I mean, that game. It's not like that game wasn't fun, but it's not like it scratches the Castlevania itch the way like a Bloodstained would.
Yeah. After playing Bloodstained, this has a lot to
live
up
it's nice
to.
that the IP's not dead, except outside of the pachinko realm, but
yeah. I mean, I was pleasantly surprised to just see it, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, it was interesting that like the demo, at least a couple of the demos that people got were in English.
Yeah.
Which
it looks like it's coming to the
probably
West.
coming here.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, Konami has to. It only releases like one real video game a year.
I mean, I get, but they don't need to do anything.
They don't. It's making plenty of money all on its own.
Money hand over fist from all that. I mean, they didn't need to release Metal Gear Survive either.
Yeah.
For everyone's benefit, they could have not released that.
You're gonna play it though, right? Castlevania, Grimoire of Souls.
I might.
I definitely will.
It depends, when it comes out and what kind of phone you need. I mean, my iPhone's a couple years old at this point, but we'll see.
I'll definitely play it. If only just to make fun of Konami.
I might wait for the Switch version.
Because that's happening.
Yeah.
It'll be the first console version. Because remember, Konami made all that money off of that crappy Bomberman game at the Switch launch. Because the launch lineup wasn't great. Once you got past Zelda anyway. Next up, Neo 2. How are you tracking on this, Matt?
I keep forgetting it exists.
Yeah, I mean, it's a problem.
Been a while.
Yeah, I mean, we hadn't gotten any media for this for a long time, and then the trailer they put out at Tokyo Game Show, and you're seeing it right now, is like 45 seconds long.
But it's still supposedly early next year.
Well, it was supposed to come out this year. That was its release date all along, and then at Tokyo Game Show they said Q1 2020.
I mean, I think we figured that we just hadn't seen it enough for it to be this year.
Yeah. I was holding out hope because it is Koei Tecmo. It's pretty good about hitting its release dates.
Also, I wouldn't want to put this out anywhere in the remainder of the year.
Yeah, I don't know. The end of the year isn't looking that stacked.
It's stacked with kind of the usual suspects. I mean, I guess you could probably put it in December and be okay, but it's not really a December game.
Yeah. I mean, it's completely different from most of the big budget stuff that's going to come out over the next few months.
But that doesn't necessarily mean anything good for it.
That's true.
People are usually going to default to their defaults before they buy the weird samurai game.
Yeah, some of the new stuff that was shown off, and some of it was known but just shown for the first time. A player-created character, so it's not a prefab character that you're going to play as.
With Geralt the Samurai this
Nope.
time?
Yep, you can create your own character in the game. I also noticed now that we have better mics that I say character weird. I say character.
Character?
So last week, what was the word that you said I said weird?
Saw.
Saw.
I said Saul.
Yeah, so I always listen to the audio version of this afterwards just to listen to the show and to hopefully make it better. And I noticed that I say character weird. I say character. You got me all paranoid about how I talk now.
This is dialect.
It is, I guess. So yeah, you can create your own character in Neo 2. That's how I say it, character. You can also turn into a yokai in the game, which is a new feature, which should make it pretty exciting, I think, and should give the game a new twist.
Beast mode.
Pretty much. And we're going to get into a little bit of that when we talk about Borderlands 3 here in a bit. I don't know which character you're playing as, but...
The gunner.
Flak?
No, that's the Beastmaster.
Yeah, I'm playing as Flak.
I'm playing as the girl who has the diva. I'm playing as the girl with a mech.
Yep.
Of course, I'm playing as the girl.
Of course you are. Well, how did I not know that? Why did I even ask that question? Are you excited for Neo 2? The marketing has been so low key.
I don't know if I'm excited about it, but I am going to play it. I like the first one.
Yeah.
I didn't finish it because it's really long.
It's really hard too.
It is hard. It is even
for Souls players. It's hard.
I think a lot of Souls players would agree that Neo is harder than most of the Souls games.
Yeah. I didn't finish
not
it
necessarily
either.
in a complimentary way.
But, yeah. Maybe it's like too much.
Yeah. But I hit a point where like I liked it and I liked all the design and it was cool to see everything, but I hit a point where like it was just so stressful to have to fight another boss so soon after the last boss. I'm just like, I need a break.
Can't do this.
One day I just never went back.
That's how it happens. It's like subconscious. I'll be glad when this is out so that I can start hoping again against all reality that we'll get another Ninja Gaiden game out of Team Ninja.
Yeah. So you wanted to come out so like they can get on with whatever they're doing
right,
next.
Exactly. Yeah.
Whoops, it's Devil's Third too.
No, God. That's definitely not going to happen. Ninja Gaiden, I mean, that would be great to announce for Generation 9. We missed it this entire generation, at least a new...
Be a nice thing for Microsoft to fund.
Yeah. But Microsoft, well, I don't know. Man, that
series is associated with the Xbox.
It is. That last game, though, really kind of throws a wrench in everything.
Yeah.
It's like, do we really want to pay for that if it ends up being like that?
Well, I wouldn't call it Ninja Gaiden 4.
Yeah.
I call it Ninja Gaiden subtitle something.
But I will say this, too, though. Like, the quality of Neo and Neo 2 has kind of sanded down those edges for me a little bit because I was burned. Like, I'm a big Team Ninja fan. I did a documentary about him, for God's sake. And that last Ninja Gaiden game, I was like, what is this?
I mean, is that Team Ninja the same Team Ninja you did that documentary about?
Most of them are.
Just Itagaki's gone?
He took a couple people with him. But the bulk of the team is still there. I mean, they stayed to stay with Yosuke Hayashi. They liked working for that guy and working with him. And, they would never say it on camera because it's Japan. But, hanging around those guys, I got some vibes here and there that not all of them were gigantic fans of Itagaki.
I can understand why,
he's a taskmaster.
Taskmaster guy kind of got a rock star personality.
Takes all the credit.
Yeah,
and Hayashi is the opposite of that. Like, he is, like, the most humble, like, so...
Well, who took credit for the Ninja Gaiden 3?
I don't know, actually. Maybe that's the point.
I mean,
nobody took credit for it because they didn't want to.
The Wii U version fixed a lot
better.
of the basic problems with it, but it's like the fact that it got through in the first place is concerning. But
yeah. I want another Ninja Gaiden, a good Ninja Gaiden. We'll see. And lastly, from Tokyo Game Show, Kingdom Hearts 3 finally showed DLC. Square Enix had put out a trailer, a really rough trailer for it, like a couple months ago that didn't show much. And then at Tokyo Game Show, they pretty much unveiled what's going to happen.
It's interesting how this game just vanished.
It did. But that's a big reason why. Like, they didn't follow it up with DLC quickly enough. This happened with
Sort of, but Kingdom Hearts 2 didn't have any DLC, and people talked about it for years afterwards.
Yeah.
But this game, like, just, here's how untalked about it is. I never finished 3, but I still don't know the end of 3 because no one bothers to even spoil it.
Yeah.
It's stunning to me.
Well, the whole thing was so absurd and so overwrought.
Well, it's always been like that, though. But this time, just endings are hard, and I guess they just didn't. nail it for a lot of people. People just sort of walked away from it,
Square
or
Enix
embraced their own fan fiction versions.
Right. Square Enix is kind of, in Japan anyway, is proving that it's dropped the ball on DLC a ton, man. Remember Final Fantasy 15?
Yeah.
It screwed up all that DLC, and now it's doing the same thing with Kingdom Hearts 3.
I mean, I think Final Fantasy 15 got off track to begin with because they had to spend some time they didn't anticipate fixing the base game.
Yeah.
So I'm sure that didn't help. But yeah, it is kind of an ongoing deficiency over there.
And even after all this time, this DLC is not particularly compelling. It's not like it adds like a huge new quest to the campaign or anything like that. It's just kind of fluff, to be honest. So
yeah, I mean, it lets you play some characters that people like, the fans like. But,
yeah.
It certainly doesn't feel like a reason to go back to it.
Nope. I have no intention of doing that. I already gave way more time than I should have to Kingdom Hearts 3. I did give it a chance, though. After all these years of not playing Kingdom Hearts and saying that's not for me, I gave it a chance. I played Kingdom Hearts 3 all the way to the end, and it's not for me. Yeah. But now I know in my heart of hearts that that's the case.
It was funny to see the fan base sort of wake up to the fact that
everyone else felt about the franchise.
The thing that I saw that them wake up to the fact was a thing you couldn't say in circles of fans before was that the Disney worlds don't matter. None of it. If you summarize the story of Kingdom Hearts, you will probably never mention the Disney stuff outside of like Mickey, Donald, and Goofy.
Because they're just like sidecar writers.
They're filler.
Yeah.
Like the story summary, you even see that in like the little summaries of like the games that are in Kingdom Hearts 3 to catch you up if you know. They don't talk about any of the Disney world. It's the beginning and the thing that happens in the middle of the game with the organization people and the ending. That's it.
And in my opinion, the worst parts of it. So I actually kind of enjoyed the Disney stuff.
Well, the Disney stuff is the hook. It's not integrated in anything because it doesn't matter.
And then the Square Enix stuff
Disney won't let them
abysmal.
mess with it that much.
I guess. But I'm done. I won't play another Kingdom Hearts.
I wonder if there will be another Kingdom Hearts.
Oh, it sold very well.
It did, but the story's over.
And it also took 10 some years to make. Yeah.
Well, then again, what are you going to have Nomura do?
I mean, you haven't got to the end of it yet, and I'm not going to spoil anything, but they do leave the door open. You could always leave the door open, but But you're right. The story arc's done. It wraps up everything that people had been all up in arms about all these years.
It's like if you started playing this series when it came out, you're probably like 30 now.
Yeah.
So it's like...
Yeah, not exactly in your wheelhouse anymore at this point. And they needed to build new fans with this one, and it'll be interesting to see if that actually happened or not.
Yeah.
But no matter what, we'll be ancient by the time it comes out. So it's probably not a problem I have to worry about. Goji Gogo, thank you for subscribing with Twitch Prime, man. Appreciate it. 17 months in a row. That's freaking awesome. So anyway, that's Tokyo Game Show 2019. At least all the big stuff from Tokyo Game Show. There was tons of other little smaller things. Lots of JRPGs, as expected. That's kind of what Tokyo Game Show is for. And there were a good handful of them that were announced that were new ones. Nothing that really set the world on fire, though, from the show.
Not really. But
and that's kind of what TGS is now.
It was no Gamescom.
Yeah, definitely no E3 either. It's just kind of a follow-up on all the Japanese stuff you've been watching for the last, 4 or 5 months. That's kind of what it's become at this point. And a lot of mobile stuff. But still valuable to the industry, I believe.
Yeah.
More
valuable than E3.
I mean, you did see a couple develop, like Kojima. I mean, he showed the biggest chunk of Death Stranding at Tokyo Game Show. So there still are some developers and publishers that do hold big stuff for it, but it's growing smaller and smaller by the year.
And if you're a Final Fantasy VII fan, it's probably the best event of the year.
Yep. Yeah, for sure. They didn't show a lot of new gameplay of that. I think fans
at least got info. It was
in 90 seconds, you got a ton of info. So yeah, it definitely delivered. All right, let's move on. We're going to talk next about Apple Arcade. We've discussed Apple Arcade once before on GameFace when it was first announced, and we didn't have a lot of details about it. But Apple had its big event last week where it announced the iPhone 11, and it was also really the launch of Apple Arcade. It's not supposed to launch until the 19th, which is just a couple of days from now, but it's already live. If you've updated your device to iOS 13, you can subscribe and become a part of Apple Arcade right now. It is $5 a month. At launch, right now it has 50 games, but it hasn't officially launched yet. And so in a couple days, it's supposed to have 100 exclusive games available for it. How do you feel about that? Do you think Apple's getting it right, Matt? With the $5 a month, play as much as you want. You don't really own the games.
Mm-hmm. I mean,
which is a catching point, but
I mean, it's better than how Stadia is doing it.
Yeah.
I'll be honest, it's not really a huge factor for me. I got more than I can play already, so like more stuff is not super enticing. I am interested in Beyond a Steel Sky because I did like the original game. I haven't subscribed. I don't have OS 13. But maybe I'm kind of like really kind of riding on word of mouth on this one. If people say there's good stuff in here, I will probably try it.
It's getting good reviews. People who have tried it said that it works great. It's Apple. Apple doesn't screw that stuff up usually.
Usually not.
I mean, that's one thing you can count on with Apple is whether you like what it's doing or not, that's open to interpretation, but it usually executes very well on what it's trying to do.
And now they've got rumors that they're trying to buy Sony Pictures again.
Yeah. And there's still the rumors about Nintendo floating out there, and
that I don't think you could force. I think Nintendo's worth too much for anyone to buy them at this point.
But imagine if Nintendo. I mean, Apple has more money than God. I mean,
yeah,
literally.
But Nintendo wouldn't do them any good in that regard, really.
It would do Apple a lot of good because if all Nintendo's old retro stuff was on Apple Arcade,
I just don't see how you force Nintendo to sell.
Yeah, you can't.
Like, I mean,
you got to make them an offer they can't refuse.
Even a hostile takeover would be real tough.
Oh yeah, I mean financially, even for Apple, it would be really, really difficult. It would,
and they are. I mean, they are
Apple.
willing to throw. I mean, word is they tried to throw $500 million at J.J. Abrams for an exclusive 5-year deal with him.
For what? For him to create movies
and shows. Yeah. And he turned it down because
$500 million he turned down.
You don't have to be good at writing endings to see how something's going to turn out.
Good one.
So instead, he took a $250 million exclusivity deal for 5 years at Warner Brothers.
Yeah.
So prepare for a J.J. Abrams Superman reboot.
Oh.
So they've got a lot of money they're willing to throw around at Apple for creators to make their Apple games, Apple Plus, their Apple TV thing, a subscription service, streaming service, like. Apple's moving hard into content creation, so it's going to be interesting to see how long they stick with this. Frankly, I mean,
also by the way,
they've got some real names in here.
Yeah. By the way, all this footage may be blacked out, not just for the YouTube folks, but for everybody, because Apple is hardcore about copyright strikes. So I'm going to send these through the filter first before I send the whole show through the filter. Because that'll take 5 minutes versus going through like an 8-hour process and then getting foiled at the end. But folks who are watching the show live, you're able to watch this B-roll. Everybody else may not be able to. So apologies for those of you who are watching this on Sifted or on Patreon and this footage is all blacked out. I'm going to do the best I can to make sure that doesn't happen, but chances are.
It all does kind of have a slightly samey look to it, doesn't it?
It does. Do you think it's going to be successful, Matt? $5 a month for 100 games at a time to play as much as you want.
I honestly don't know. I don't feel like I know enough about that market to be able to call it one way or the other. I mean, it feels like a pretty good deal. Like if there's something I wanted to play, like Beyond a Steel Sky, I would probably go for it. I'm not really super clear on the details, like how you play it. If you can just play it on a TV or something, or if I have to use like my iPhone.
Well, no. I mean, So
like
whatever your Apple device
TV
can do, it's going to
Yeah.
do with the games as well.
All right. Well, I mean, if I could get it on my I got a new power book. What is this? 1997. I got a new MacBook because my old one died. Like I've never had a
Apple device
die. I mean,
yeah, it's weird.
The solid state drives can be accessed a certain number of times, and they're
just done. Yeah.
I couldn't get my data off it. Couldn't get anything. It's just dead. So I mean, I had backups and stuff. It's fine. But that was the first time in, maybe since the old Performa days when one of my Macs just died and I was like, oh, better order a new computer because I don't have one.
That is the rub with solid state drives. They're amazing, but they have a life. Yeah. And when they're done, there's no getting that data off. It's not like with an old mechanical drive where you can spend $1,000 or whatever and take it to somebody and they can actually get that data.
Nothing you can do. Like I couldn't fix the boot partition. I couldn't fix like the install of the operating system. But even when I got the new computer and plugged it in just as a storage hard drive, the mode you can put it in, it still couldn't read it.
Wow.
It was not there. It was gone.
That sucks.
Well, I mean, it was all backed up. It was fine. It was like basically the thing.
Was there any hint that it was coming at all?
No. I came home I came home from a doctor's appointment and sat down, and it didn't work.
Just didn't
anymore.
work. Huh. One thing I will say is
It was, however, 6 years old.
Yeah.
So
there's a lot of things that Apple does that I hear about it, and I'm like, that seems crazy. And then it always manages to execute. Maybe I don't even end up liking it, but a lot of other people do. For instance, Apple Music. So I got my iPhone X. I guess it's almost been like 2 years ago now. It's hard to believe. But I got it, and like it gave you like a free trial of Apple Music. And I was like, I have the music that I want. I don't need Apple Music. So I didn't even like take the free trial, because I was like, what'll happen is I'll forget to cancel it, and then they'll charge me, and then I'll see it, and then I'll cancel it, and it'll cost me money. So I just didn't even like bother. My wife, on the other hand, when she got her iPhone X, she did accept the Apple Music trial, and she loves it. Loves it. Like literally within like 4 days, she's like, oh my God, this is like the most awesome thing ever. Like anything I can think of, I just search it and it's there. She's like, it's worth every penny of $10 a month to me. And to me, I was like, that's crazy. But she loves it. So Apple Arcade to me right now, it doesn't seem to have a hook. Like I'm not interested in spending $5 a month on it, even though that is really low.
I mean, I would pay $5 for 1 month to play like Beyond a Steel Sky and whatever Sakaguchi makes.
It could end up becoming like a Game Pass thing, like a lot of people just did with Gears, where they're like, oh, I don't really want to subscribe to Game Pass, but for this month,
I mean,
sure.
Especially for this, like kind of something like this, you want to entice someone to subscribe, and you might want to make it more hassle than it's worth to cancel it.
Right. Yeah, I mean, that's what they do. That's what everybody does. And that's why I don't sign up in the first place. I'm like, I'll forget, and they'll just start charging me, and
suddenly you've spent the cost of a full price game for
a
whole year.
And honestly, I won't even notice it, because I'm not one of those people that like always checks their bank account. Like I hardly ever check my bank account. And so they could get away with like several months of charging me before I'd even look and be like, oh crap, like I guess I forgot to cancel that. So,
I do run through my credit card statement and make sure there's nothing on there I don't recognize.
Oh, you do? I don't even do that.
Not like charges, but I just like locate like places.
Right.
So I look through, it's like okay, Amazon, PlayStation Network, Toy Store, Amazon. I'm like, yeah, it's all me.
Is there like a yarn place or something on there? Like
shoes? Who did that?
It wasn't me.
Who bought clothing? That wasn't me.
So I don't have high hopes for Apple Arcade for myself. It'll be interesting to see how it does. Apple is really good at marketing that stuff to its ecosystem and getting people who are already using its devices and its other services to try stuff and then hopefully get them hooked on it, and then they stay on. It'll be interesting to see. I agree with you. I think Apple has the right idea as far as how it works. You pay the flat rate. You have access to everything. You can download the stuff to your device. It's not streaming. I mean, the financial model for it, I think, is perfect.
Yeah, the model is what Stadia should be doing.
It is, absolutely. You should be able to download stuff on Stadia, although I don't think you still own stuff in Apple Arcade.
No, you don't. You only have it as long as you have the subscription.
Yeah.
But you're also not paying $60 per game.
Yep.
That's the difference.
That is the big difference.
This is the streaming model. This is exactly you pay a monthly fee, and you are given access to the library.
Yep.
That's what
That's
it should
the
be.
way it should be. Yep. So anyway, Apple Arcade comes out.
And at least this one has actual games you can't play everywhere else.
It's true. All of them are supposed to be exclusive. This is the game that caught my eye, Skate City.
Yeah, I figured.
Yeah, it's a new skating. Actually, it is even new. It's been like kicking around like the studio that made it for a couple years now. And I guess Apple just reached out to him and was like, "Yo, here's some money. Make it exclusive to Apple Arcade." And I guess they said,
It just looks like an indie game paradise.
Pretty much. And I mean, they're working with big indie developers who have made some great indie games to get exclusives on the platform. So I don't think you're ever going to see AAA stuff. Although I'll say this, man, a lot of these games look great. Like these trailers were published in like 4K. So these games are going to run at 4K. So probably 720p on a phone, I'm guessing. They'll scale it or whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I just don't think they're ever going to have a killer app, I guess is the best way I could put it. Like something that's just going to like make people feel like they have to subscribe. And
maybe it's just maybe they're betting on it being enough that you can just play real games on your device.
That's true.
Like that it certainly isn't. Whenever I look at the App Store, and I'm just like, God, there's no real games on here. There's nothing to play that isn't some kind of free to play
clicker,
free to play addiction scam.
Pretty much,
basically,
yeah. That's what most mobile games are. It's like get you hooked on this so you start spending like $5 a week on it
and
or whatever.
Fortunately or unfortunately, however you want to look at it, that doesn't work on me.
Me either.
So like,
yeah.
I play them through the tutorial, and then they start like doing the thing where they start squeezing you for money because everything takes too long, and I just never open it again. That's the end of it.
No, I delete it.
Yeah.
I just immediately delete it. I'm like, oh, okay, I see how this is. Bye.
Pretty much.
Yeah, I want to send that
message. Because the thing is, they're not fun.
They're not fun. No.
It's not fun to play them. Like, if playing them was like, I kind of halfway enjoy playing Elder Scrolls Blades, which is why I still play it now and again, but I still haven't spent any money on it.
Yeah.
Because I play it so infrequently that I don't need to spend money on it. But, like, these look like real games to me, for the most part.
Ish.
I mean, as much as something like Night in the Woods is a real game.
Yeah, yeah. They're all indie games, you know?
Mm-hmm. And Sonic.
Yeah. Somehow, some way. Although Sonic works pretty well on mobile, so I can understand that.
Gotta go fast.
Yep. But anyway, Apple Arcade launches officially on the 19th. It's out there already. It doesn't have all the games on the service yet, but it's $5 a month. I think there's a free trial for a month. For the first month, you can play. It's just like Apple Music. It's like the drug dealer model. You can get the first one free. You got to pay for the rest. So you better check this out if you want to before you commit any cash to it, which is good. But on the 19th, it should have all 100 exclusive games on there. And there's some cool stuff in there. Like, it'll be interesting. I think a lot of it's going to depend on word of mouth. You know, if people get it and they're like, oh, wow, for $5 I get all this. And they go on social media. They're like, Apple Arcade's awesome.
I mean, it's nice to see that Hironobu Sakaguchi's still doing something.
Yeah, exactly. Because otherwise, what is he doing? So anyway, that's Apple Arcade coming to a handset near you on September 19th.
A long time since Lost Odyssey, that's for sure.
Yep, for sure. All right, next up, we're going to talk briefly about Gears 5. We talked about it a ton last week. I had continued to play it. I finished the game. I finished the campaign. Matt, you did not continue to play it.
I haven't played it since before the last show. No.
Why is that, do you think?
It was a very busy week. And it came down to playing new stuff or playing that, and I figured you would prefer I played new stuff.
Absolutely, yeah.
And nothing against the game. Like, it wasn't like I didn't...
We were talking earlier about games where kind of subconsciously you get that signal of, like, I'm not going back. You didn't get that with Gears 5, though?
It was just, there was just no time. And believe me, I would have rather been playing this for most of what I was playing instead this week. But we'll get to those.
Yeah, we will.
But yeah, I'm still right at the beginning of Act 3.
Okay. Well, I did finish the game, and it is still amazing. Like, what I said last week still stands. Like, I didn't sour on the game per se. I will say this. The third act, the part that you're about to play, is not good.
Oh, that's encouraging.
It is a slog through a facility. I hate that in every game. I hate when you go to this big factory, like, warehouse thing, and you spend like a whole like section of a game inside it, and that's what the third act of this game is. I will say this, it does seem a little bit shorter than the other acts, which I was delighted to find out when I had dragged myself to the finish line of it.
The whole game seems a little short in terms of like looking at the act structure, because the others are all 5 acts.
Yeah. I mean, I think it took me like 15 hours probably ultimately to finish it. I died some. I didn't die a lot, so that didn't add like a ton of time onto it or anything. But yeah, it probably took me actually probably closer to like 13 hours, I think, which is pretty typical for Gears. You're right, though. Most Gears games have 5 acts, and this one has 4. I will say this. It's worth playing to the end because there's something that transpires at the end game that I'm surprised that it hasn't kind of made it onto social media and people haven't discussed it publicly yet. You're forced to make a decision. I guess that's all I'll say. That's pretty tough and pretty integral. It'll be interesting to see how they play that out ultimately with the franchise and how it'll affect games on down the road. But that's something that Gears has never really done. Put you in this precarious situation where you have to make a choice. Like, usually the choice is chainsaw or bullets. That's pretty much the extent of the player agency in Gears. I did, after I finished it, I went and played multiplayer. My opinion of multiplayer has not changed from when I was in the beta a couple months ago. I was not a huge fan of it then. It's not that it's bad. It's just that I don't really like Gears multiplayer anymore, and it's just kind of more of the same. I know we had someone in chat like last week say that I was crazy that there are all these changes. There are changes. You have like supers. Each character has like supers now, and They say that they've toned it down to make it more enjoyable for casual fans. I didn't really get that just playing it. If you like Gears multiplayer, go for it. I don't know if I would say it's the best. It's definitely not the most groundbreaking. I've
seen plenty of videos of people playing multiplayer with like little compilations of like the most ridiculous stuff that happened to them, and most of them are titled "Gears is still Gears."
Yeah,
and it's just it's people circling around each other, firing shotguns until
rolling.
Someone happens to hit each other. Like, oh, I'm gonna kill this guy. I just seemed to somehow missed him. Like, oh wait, he's behind me now. It's the same thing. Like, people, even if the game is not designed the same, people play it the same, which is kind of the same difference.
Well, it's like you get good at something, and you want to play that way when you play the next one.
Mm-hmm.
I personally think that they need to get rid of the shotgun rolling in Gears. I don't know what you do to eliminate it, to be perfectly honest with you. Maybe just nerf the shotguns a little bit at close range so it's not an instant kill every time. I don't know.
Yeah, but it's like that is Gears.
It is now.
I mean, you're
right.
But
yeah.
like, that's what it is. So maybe it's, maybe you need a game that's just dedicated to shotgun overpoweredness.
Yeah, and I still think the roadie run in 2019 is just completely absurd and ridiculous. Like, I get why they did it way back then when it was like one of the only cover games in existence, but now it just seems ridiculous. It's like, oh, now you're making me run, but I only kind of have control over the character. And all these other games that I play, when I run, I have total control over my character. So, I don't know. It's long in the tooth. They've been making the game the same way for a really long time now, and I get it. It has a huge fan base, and they don't want to turn those people off, but I feel like if they ever want to get past that, they're going to have to make some hard choices going forward. Campaign, amazing, though. Despite the third act being a bit of a downer and a bit of a drag, the campaign in general is great. I think it's probably the best Gears campaign ever, other than the first one, although if I went back and played the first one now, I feel like I definitely wouldn't agree with that statement.
You would not.
Right.
As someone who recently played it.
Right. What I'm saying, though, is the impact that first one had on me gets it up close to where this game is.
Yeah, this is an objectively better
but in every
story,
way.
Though.
In every way.
Story and game. I mean, there's just more.
The gameplay.
On.
I mean, look, they have tweaked the gameplay. You don't even realize it until you go back and play like the first one again. But there have been changes.
I mean, I played the remastered one, the ultimate Xbox One version.
Yep.
And even that was like, you don't appreciate the fluidity of how 4 and 5 move until you've gone back to 1 and just you're trying to play it on basically you're trying to play 1 on a grid. Like it's very hard to get your head around. Like they're constantly doing the wrong thing, and like I just want to kill that. I just want to stop and kill that guy, and like we just can't do it. Like the controls aren't there yet. And by Gears 2, they're pretty much in place.
Yeah.
But like Gears 1 is rough today.
Well, I'll tell you, even with this Gears, I had to go into the options and turn down the look sensitivity. I could never get it zeroed in. I played the first hour and a half of the campaign with the default sensitivity, and I could just never get dialed in with shooting in this game. And I went and turned all of the sensitivities down one notch from 10 to 9, and I started playing, and I was in the zone. So
one thing I did definitely notice was the thing that they improve over the course of the series the most to me, at least in terms of single player stuff, is the consistency with where the reticle is when you pop out of cover. Early on, especially 1 and on the first game, even on the remastered one, there were times when I'm like, how in the world are you aiming over? I was just shooting this guy, and now I'm going to reload, and I'm going to pop back out. Now I'm aiming over here. I'm like, what happened? And they slowly get better and better at having that be more. It still does that, though. It still does it, but it's not nearly as bad. You can mostly be confident as to where your reticle is going to end up when you pop out of cover in this game. And in the first couple games, it's night and day.
I don't understand
not perfect yet, but
why they don't have the dot on screen.
I don't know.
Times. Why?
I don't know. Uncharted.
I'm
channeling
Sam
over here.
Yeah, you are.
Uncharted. Just wherever you got that.
Chatter while we play
wherever you got
Uncharted.
that dot pointed, that's where the gun's pointed when you pop out of cover.
Yeah, why doesn't it have this? It's a cover shooter. It needs it worse than any shooter because you're down in cover most of the time, popping out. It drives me crazy. I don't get it. You have to train your brain to know where the exact center of your TV screen is. That's how you learn to line up shots while you're down in cover so you can pop up and just shoot. I don't get it. I'm sure there's some reason for it. Maybe they're like, oh, it distracts from the cinematic, blah, blah, blah. I don't know. But I want a dot in this franchise. I want to know where I'm going to be aiming when I pop up out of cover. And I know some people will be like, that's not realistic. You're right. It's not realistic. It's a video game. This is a video game about cogs and crazy creatures that come up out of the ground. Like, realism is not what it's going for. So I don't quite understand why they've made that decision over and over again. But I agree with you. Even at the end of this game, I was popping out of cover, and, like, my reticle would be, like, 10 feet away from, like, the enemy. And you're like, yank, and you yank it over. Like, I don't know. The franchise, to me, is living on its characters and plot now, which I never thought would happen.
Yeah, that is not a thing
Think
I thought
about
would
that.
happen with Gears of War.
It's insane. I mean, but it's so good that it will live on because of that. And I hope that with the next installment, the Coalition actually has some guts to make some major changes to it. Mm-hmm. We'll see. But what's here is like maybe like the ideal Gears of War game in its original form, maybe is the best way to describe it.
They've gone about as far as they can go, probably, with polishing
everything up.
What it's always been.
As long as they put a reticle in the damn game, then it'll be the ultimate version. But I still fully recommend. I would honestly.
There might be an option for that, actually. I don't know.
There might. I didn't look, actually, now that I think about it. There might be. So I guess what I would say is my opinion hasn't changed on Gears. It hasn't since I played the beta. I'm not a big fan of the multiplayer. It's good. If you like Gears, you're going to love it. The campaign is pretty freaking great, even with the kind of slow third act. I would recommend for Gears fans to buy this at full price, but they don't have to. I mean...
Yeah, you just Game Pass.
It was actually pretty rewarding to see a lot of comments from last week's show saying, you know, you guys told me about this, and I did it, and oh my gosh, like I just played a new Gears game for $12. So for $12, it's a no-brainer. And I would even say if you're a Gears fan, which means you probably already bought this already, but if you are a Gears fan, like, buy it. You can pay full price for it, and I think you'll be happy with it. So that's it for Gears 5. Next up, Daemon Cross Machina. A game that I want nothing to do with. In fact, I sent the review code that Nintendo sent us to Vincent. And I'm not going to share with you yet what the goings on and the back and forth I've had with Vincent about this game yet. I want to hear your impressions of it. Switch exclusive.
Yes. Switch exclusive. Basically, Armored Core in hell, I guess would be a way to describe. Like,
is it hell?
No, I mean they talk about it being hell in it, which I basically, like, the moon breaks apart. And part of it lands on Earth and destroys a whole bunch of shit. And, like, there's just this wasteland destroyed place that's all red. And, like, the guy... And, like, there's these mercenaries who go in mechs called arsenals that destroy these AIs that have gone rogue. And a lot of them refer to it as going to hell. So I don't know if it's literal or what. But it's, like, you're mostly fighting mechanical stuff, mostly. You're fighting, like, mecha AI.
Will there be machines in hell?
I mean, I think it's supposed to be like these AIs went rogue, and maybe that's what caused the moon to crash because there were AIs on them. I don't know. The story is incredibly boring, and I haven't paid a whole lot of attention to it. Like before, early on, it's kind of non-existent. Like there's not really. Early on, there's like a lot of cutscenes before missions where these other pilots like hang around, and they all have like a specific personality trait. Like one guy's like a big rar, I'm gonna beat things up guy, and one guy is like an aristocratic jerk, and he has his two sisters, and one of them just wants to blow stuff up, and the other one just wants to kill everyone, and she's like this weird mopey goth that keeps saying how everyone would be better off dead. And there's like this other one is just relentlessly positive, and there's the rookie who just wants to make money, but like.
What good is money
it's just
in hell?
Well, I guess the good is money is you can buy new parts for your robot. Like that's the whole point.
So you can rule hell.
And like, so they're kind of establishing these characters in these sort of mercenary groups, but like it all just kind of went in one ear and out the other, and like you're just sort of mindlessly doing missions, which all kind of are these weirdly short, like go to the place and blow up everything that has a marker on it and don't die. Like that's about it. And like early on, there's like stuff where a couple of the missions go wrong, where you're supposed to blow up these easy things, and then these Gigant class immortal, they call immortals, the mechs you're fighting, and these things are gigantic. They're like Attack on Titan monsters sort of that come in and like you can't really damage them, and then these like super badass mercenary guys show up and kill them for you, and that's sort of the establishment of like, okay, there's these giant things that you can't kill yet, but you have to get stronger. And there's actually a message from like one of the AI that's helping you at one point. She says the most important thing in your performance is your skill as a pilot, but the weapons and gear you buy for your mech are just as important. And I'm like, well, which is it?
Yeah, okay.
Because either the skill is the most important thing, or the other thing is as important as that. In which case, it's not. Meh.
Yeah.
And then like after like the first like 10 or so missions, like all that kind of story stuff basically goes away.
That's
and,
probably
like,
for the best.
And like you just sort of grind through all these missions. So so they're organized in like ranks. So like you start at rank E and you work your way up to, I assume, rank S. I'm not done with it. Like rank C has like this like shocking difficulty spike that like all of a sudden like I'm just getting destroyed and I don't know really why. Like I've been upgrading and keeping up as far as I know, and like you find new parts by like destroying like, because like little like tanks and like floaty drone things don't give you anything except ammo, but if you blow up an actual other like bipedal mech, you can go to their destroyed chassis and like you go. This is in the demo, but you like hit the A button
salvage,
and it shows you like stuff you can get for them, and it highlights anything that you don't already have, and you pick it and it gets sent back to your base. And that's like the most efficient way to pick up new parts if you don't want to spend money on them. And but I was upgrading at a pretty regular clip. I felt very competitive, and then suddenly I hit rank C, and like I had these guys killing me in like 3 hits, and I'm like, what did I do wrong? I don't know what I'm doing wrong. So I don't know if I'm supposed to I haven't really played beyond that. I don't know if I'm supposed to be grinding online or.
Well, this might be a good point to bring up Vincent's perspective on the game. So I had no interest in playing this whatsoever. I played the demo and I hated it. And you're seeing gameplay of that.
I
right
like
now.
the demo, but I will say this: like they slightly improved like the performance on it. I think the screen tearing isn't as bad, but it still performs terrible. It still chugs like crazy, and it's weird to me that we're now on 3 first-party games that have weird performance issues.
Hitching, yeah. So I
Switch is hitting its power zenith here.
Yep. So I had no interest in this game at all. Nintendo sent us a review code, and Vincent actually hadn't even expressed any interest in this, but I sent him an email anyway. I'm like, hey, you want this? And he's like, do I have to do anything with it? And I was like, you don't have to do anything you don't want to. So he dove in. He started playing. I think it was the next day or the day after that. He sends me another email. He's like, I'm stuck. I hit this difficulty spike that I cannot get past, and I do not want to play this anymore. And I was like, fine. I'm like, don't torture yourself. Only play it if you want to play it. And then the next day he followed up. He's like, I got through it, and now I'm continuing on. So it sounds like you and him both hit the wall. And like
the same thing?
I don't know. Vincent, maybe you can say in chat whether you got
sounds
stuck.
like the same spike.
Yep, same spike. So you guys are not. It looks like this is just a problem. This isn't a perspective thing or an ability or skill thing.
So I was kind of breezing through it until then. Really.
Yeah.
I mean, there was some harder things here and there. Like a couple of the boss stuffs were like, oh, what do you want me to do? Okay. I had to retry a couple times, and the first time you run into like some actual AI mechs that are trying to kill you. Usually in the free missions, like I was like, oh, these guys can actually do some damage. It was like the first time anything had really done like serious damage to me.
Yeah.
Because I was used to like these little enemies that just sort of plink me for like 5 or 6 damage at a shot, and these guys were like hitting me with swords,
like
and,
laser swords.
They were like moving so fast and auto targeting me to the point that I couldn't dodge out of the way. And so I'm like, oh, okay, I'm just not equipped for this yet.
Now I hated the controls in this game. Like, I just thought they were awkward and weird.
They are a little weird. They took some getting used to.
Does that hurt? I mean, when you're talking about like that section where
Not
they're
really.
moving fast, it didn't hinder you
I mean,
at all?
by that point, you've gotten used to it.
You got it down.
The other thing I will say is you can modify the controls however you want. You can modify the HUD any way you want. Like the amount of customization on like the interface and the HUD is astounding. Like you can move and get rid of or bring in almost any HUD element and move it all over the screen or wherever you want. Anything like it's very impressive. I haven't really done that because I think it's fine more or less.
That's pleasant.
But it's certainly good for like
the cart before the horse, isn't it?
Well, I mean, the customization is very strong, and you can customize your outfit and everything, all the colors and everything. You customize the mech with all the different parts and all the various colors and decals everywhere. And I mean, you can pick paint schemes, or you can paint it up yourself with choosing individual hues from I mean, you can really go nuts with it, but like
it sounds like all the frivolous stuff is done very well.
Yeah,
the
yeah,
core of the game, however,
the core of the game. I mean, the core of the game is fine. Like it is kind of Armored Core-ish.
Is it fine for a Nintendo Switch first-party exclusive?
No, it's not. I mean, it's fine for like a PlayStation 2 B-list game,
right?
You know, like, and as someone who liked those Armored Core games, I do enjoy most of the idea of playing it, although like it does get tedious after a while. You know, you're just doing the same thing. It's got that thing where like, especially early on, the missions are just too short to get into. You know, it's like, you know, by the time you're sort of getting a groove, it's over.
Right.
And then like later on, like they get a little more involved, and that's better. But like you've played like 15 hours at that point.
Jeez.
And like,
have you spent that much time with this?
It's probably about total, I would say.
That's hilarious. So
maybe less.
So Matt, I texted Matt today, like I always do on show day. I'm like, hey, have you been playing anything besides the obvious? And he tells me he's been playing this game.
Well, yeah.
And then I said, enough. You said a little bit.
Yeah.
And I'm like, enough to discuss it. And you were like, yeah. And I thought maybe you'd played like 4 hours or something.
Because it feels like I'm still not in the thick of it.
Oh,
yet.
really?
It feels like I'm still beginning.
So you think it's like a pretty big game then?
Well, I mean, you gotta go through E rank and then D rank, and now I hit the beginning of C rank is where my difficulty spike happened. I presume there's at least 2 difficulty grades after that, if not an S after that. And like you're grinding through like 10, 12 missions on most of the. I mean, I feel like I've got like 50 missions left or something. I don't know how long it actually is, but like.
So it's
on one hand, there's like no shortage of content, but at the same time, all the content's so similar that it feels like you're still in the beginning.
Well, it also sounds like you're not having that much fun.
Not really.
So if you're not having fun, it doesn't really matter how much content.
I just find
there
it
is.
very samey, and I mean, it does what it does, and it does it fine. But like, I feel like there should have been more to it. I don't know. Like it's a little. Just it feels weird that Nintendo put their name on it a little bit.
That's how I felt when I played the demo. I was like, this game's
better than
published
the demo.
by Nintendo?
It's better than the demo, like at least technically speaking. But and like there's a lot of presentation is pretty good in places.
Good, yeah.
It looks decent. Like the art style's nice. I love the music. I think the music's really good. But in terms of what I'm actually doing, physically playing, I've done it 1,000 times before in better games.
Yeah.
I think that would be probably the best way. Except those better games were like on the PS2.
Right.
So it's not like you really have alternatives, right?
That's true. That's a good point.
Is
it a full price game?
It is.
It is. Do you regret buying it?
A little bit.
Yeah.
A little bit. But then again, like these things, Nintendo published stuff doesn't drop in price. So if I wanted to play it, I'd probably, at best, I'd probably pay like $45 for it in a sale.
Like 3 years from now?
Yeah. So I mean, it's not bad, but it's.
And I guess the truth is, you did play the demo, so you kind of knew what
I was getting into. I was hoping there was going to be more beyond the content of the demo, and it's really just more of the same, except the things do more damage to you, and you have to do more damage to them, and that's about it. But presentationally, it's good. I referred to it in that Final Fantasy VII section of like. It is bog standard anime dubbing and writing and just this, like not even bothering to translate the idioms from the Japanese into anything that makes sense in English. It's just sort of like, people talking, using, it reminded me of like some friends who went to see they saw a K-pop concert last week. And one of the guys.
I don't think I could survive a
One of the guys in the band before the show said, I'm going to kill myself on this stage up here, which is apparently like he means like he's going to do really well and try really hard and kill it. He's going to kill it. But I think it was like a Korean expression that means maybe something like that. That doesn't mean to a native speaking audience that you're going to commit suicide on a stage.
All the 8-year-old girls in the crowd were like, yeah.
So It's reminding me of stuff like that. It's like I understand what you were saying, Daemon X Machina, but there had to be a better way to say it. It's a lot of stuff like that.
I feel like I can sum up this discussion over Daemon X Machina with just a few words, and that is buy Astral Chain.
If you must, yeah. I mean, Astral Chain is a better game. There's no doubt about that.
I mean, it sounds like it's a
or really just wait for Link's Awakening.
Yeah.
If you need
I don't know though. Some of the reports about that game have not been.
I saw the things. Okay, so the frame rate's 50 frames and whatever.
Yeah.
And it's the Switch. It's what it's going to be.
Yeah,
it's
it is.
why there are people like me who desperately want a more powerful one that doesn't do handheld.
And we're only 2 years into it.
Yeah.
So what's going to happen when developers... I mean, what is going to happen to Switch in like 2 years?
I don't know.
Are they just going to keep porting whatever they can from Generation 8 to it until it's gone? Because none of that Generation 9 stuff's going to run on Switch. They're lucky
No,
they
not at
got
all.
Gen 8 any Gen 8 stuff to run on it.
Well, they're just going to lean on mobile and ports of old games and
Ports of mobile games.
and
Indies.
their own stuff. I mean,
Yeah.
and Bethesda, I guess.
Yeah, that's the one third party.
Although, I
that seems to
mean,
be sticking beside
I
them.
have a hard time believing Starfield's going to be able to be crammed on that
No
thing.
way.
So
No, that's
there's,
not
there's only a point. There's a point at which that's just not going to be feasible anymore.
I mean, I would say this Fallout 76 might be able to work on it because that game is so ugly.
Yeah, but Nintendo might just pay them to keep it off. the
Right?
Switch.
Yeah, just stay away. You know, they pitched it to him because they're like, man, that opened up a whole new revenue stream for us. And to think about it, like a Fallout on a Nintendo console. Has that ever happened? No. There's never been a Fallout on a Nintendo platform. Nintendo might take it and fund it.
Yeah, we'll see.
Yeah.
I'm curious. I'm also curious to see how Xenoblade Chronicles runs.
Yeah.
Because that was a Wii game, but they obviously have done a lot of work on it. But like, if it doesn't run well, that's going to be disappointing.
Yeah. At least that game, not quite as important as like a platinum action game or a fast-paced like mech battle game.
Given the sales of Xenoblade Chronicles 2, I feel like Xenoblade Chronicles Remaster is pretty important.
No, I mean, it's like the frame rate and things like that aren't as important for that genre as they were for
sort
the
of,
others.
but I think people are hoping they're going to get a nice, smooth way to explore that world because that was like really you play it on Dolphin on the emulator and it's fine like that.
Yeah.
Full
It also
60,
looks like a
it
different game.
yeah, I mean every Wii game does when you run it
It
through
does, yeah.
But like, and then the 3DS version doesn't really do you any favors in
Yeah.
that regard. I mean, it'll run better than the 3DS version. I'm
Yeah,
sure.
well, considering it bottomed out to like 5 frames a second at times,
Yeah.
so it's not a high bar to hit.
But
Unfortunately.
you really are starting to see kind of the upper limits already of the what the Switch can do hardware wise, and it's a little distressing because it's like Daemon X Machina doesn't look bad, but it doesn't look like a game that should push a system. You know what I mean? So it's a little disturbing sometimes to see that, or to see like Fire Emblem have frame rate hitches in its turn-based combat, which is just bizarre.
Yeah, how is that even possible?
Link's Awakening has frame rate dips. I know there's a lot going on under the hood of any game now, and there's a lot of stuff happening in kind of that art style. What they're
It
trying
takes
to do
up a
with
lot
it.
of the power, yeah.
But the Game Boy game ran at 59.
Yep.
So
What gives? Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we'll be playing that game pretty soon, too. We talk about it on GameFace pretty soon. Yeah.
a week.
Is it next week it comes out?
No, it's like 3 days. It's Friday.
Wait, it comes out Friday?
Yeah, the 20th.
So I'm going to be playing that here in the next day or two.
Yeah.
That's pretty exciting. Yep. So we'll be talking about that on GameFace next Tuesday. Also, we didn't mention this off the top, but we did do the show later this time. This is not permanent. This is we could not get a TriCaster TD to come in for our usual 1 o'clock show. So we got someone for 5. It's just for this week. From here on out, we'll be back at 1 p.m. Pacific on Tuesday. So do you recommend anybody buy this?
I mean, if you're like a hard line mech Armored Core fan who just desperately needs a drop of water in the desert, maybe. But
So I'll take that as a no.
but otherwise, like just play Armored Core again.
Yeah, if you can find it.
I mean, Armored Core fans tend to still have it.
Yeah, you're right. That's a good point.
I said the number of Armored Core games in my collection is absurd. Like they made so many of those.
They
And then
did.
they just stopped.
Yeah, they were just barfing them out. Like it seemed like every year there was a new one.
Oh yeah. There's like even on the like 360 and stuff. You
Yep.
had
They kept
Armored Core
coming.
5 and 4 Answer and all that
I
weird
forgot
stuff.
about that one. Yeah.
Chrome Hounds. Why don't somebody make Chrome Hounds again?
Yeah.
That was fun.
That was one of the more underrated games of that generation.
Kind of had a really innovative online system.
Yeah, it
too.
had like that crazy map that like it was like this war that was going on, and you teamed up with other players,
like-
and you're like pushing for territory, and
It's an interesting idea.
it was. Yeah, it was pretty good. I ended up playing that game for a good like month and a half, I think. And I'm not like the big mech game guy, but that one kind of got me, and a lot of it had to do with how they set up the online. So there you go, Daemon Cross Machina. That's a big pass from GameFace, big pass from Matt Kyle. You guys probably had a feeling that was going to be the case.
Yeah, I mean,
although you were more positive on the demo than I was.
Yeah, I had some hopes after the demo. I was hoping the demo would be like, oh, it's just a couple really early missions that don't really represent the overall depth and quality of what you'll be doing and how the missions will work. And they are indeed, they were very early missions, but it doesn't really get any better.
Yeah.
So it just gets harder, and that's not necessarily more fun.
Yep, there you go. We just saved you $60. $60 for that game. That's
especially
crazy.
This time of year. There's better things to do.
Yeah, this is where we start tightening up our opinions of games a little bit too.
Yeah, if they had it ready in time, they should have put that out in like July.
Yeah, and we're a lot more forgiving in July than we are in September, October, November.
Yeah, it wouldn't
December.
have been a bad summer drought game.
Yeah.
But in the thick of the holiday release schedule is no.
Yep, it killed it. All right, next up we're going to talk about Call of Duty. I think this might be the third week in a row we talked about Call of Duty.
Yeah.
Is that accurate?
At least two. I don't remember.
I know we talked about it last week.
I purge all the Call of Duty stuff from my memory as soon as you stop talking about it. So.
Well, I'll say this. Activision is doing a really good job with this game in particular with staggering new information and events. So there was the gunfight beta that happened a couple weeks ago. This past weekend was the open beta on PlayStation 4. It started out as a closed beta, and Activision sent me a code for the closed part. And then it cracked open to everybody on like Friday. And then all weekend long, it was just the whole multiplayer suite available for everybody on PlayStation 4. And I probably played equal parts of this and Borderlands 3 over the weekend. And we'll get to Borderlands 3 here in a couple topics. But this was the full multiplayer suite. The prior beta was just basically one mode. This was the whole shebang. Now, when you played it, it wasn't like you bought the game and there's the menus and you can choose to play just TDM or just capture the flag. You basically just got thrown into a mosh pit where they just kept cycling through the different modes. So, like it or not, you were forced to play pretty much all the modes in the multiplayer suite. Although, look, I'm sure there are some that they didn't put in there, but most of the staples were there, and then a couple of the more unique, or a couple more unique options were in there as well. Before I start talking about like the modes specifically, though, I just want to talk about how the game plays. So, Gunfight it took place in these very small, cramped maps because it was just 2-on-2. And if they were bigger than that, then people would be running around and they'd have nobody to shoot. So this beta is in the full-on maps. It is Call of Duty, so the maps aren't like Battlefield size or anything like that. But I will say this, they are a little bigger than the last couple entries in the Call of Duty franchise. And I think the reason they had to do that is because they're allowing more players per match in this. And so they have scaled the map accordingly. They're bigger so that people just aren't all jammed together. The other thing I would say generally about playing this is it may have the best spawn points of any Call of Duty in the last like 10 years. I very rarely spawned and had somebody on me immediately. I think it happened literally like once the whole time I played it. So the spawns are looking good. The map size is looking good for the player count, which is great. From there, though, for me personally, it all goes downhill. I did not enjoy playing this at all. So what you're seeing right now is how matches begin. Instead of just staring at a loading screen or whatever, you're actually dropped into each map in like a little mini cinematic. Also, what you're seeing right now is one of the more specialty modes, which is like a night vision mode. This mode you play only in the dark. I have no idea why they've created this. It basically just creates a fog of war so you can't see as far. It seems pointless to me. But the rest of it, I do not like. First of all, the traversal, it's a much slower game than Black Ops. It has the same... you saw that guy trying to jump up the wall.
Black Ops exactly. The wall there, yeah.
Exactly. So it has all the same options, meaning it doesn't have very many. Like just like the last Black Ops, the only special kind of moving that you have is the slide. They did boost like some of the clambering stuff, so you can like shoot while you're climbing over stuff. But for the most part, it controls just like the last Black Ops. It doesn't have wall running. It doesn't have jetpacks. You can run and you can slide, and that's pretty much it. The problem is that it's slower, so it doesn't feel as responsive and tight as Black Ops did. And the slide just feels completely off. Like you're running full bore and then you slide, and the slide is almost like this kind of like slow motion thing. It doesn't feel good to me. The guns feel okay, but the audio for the guns, it's like muted and weird, and it just doesn't have like that punch. Like hit markers in the last Black, you feel them in your heart. If you have a subwoofer, like every hit marker you get, you feel like the thud. Physically, you feel it. Like you don't, the way the audio design is in this, it just feels limp and weak. I don't know why it is. I don't know what they've done to the audio to make it that way. The guns just, they don't feel good when you're shooting them. You're not getting as much tactical feedback as you're getting from prior Call of Duties. Like those hit markers, like sometimes if you have lag, like the markers don't show up right away, but you'd always feel it in your hands. Like, oh, okay, I'm landing it. You know I'm on him and I just need to keep on the trigger. In this game, it just doesn't have that feeling to it. And so to me, the core of the game is not great. And that's what you build on. That's the foundation that you start with. And then everything else is just kind of like cool additions. You have to have the core of the gameplay feeling good. I do not feel like this game is that way. The other biggest issue I have with this game is it is just a camp fest. And it's not because suddenly everybody who likes Call of Duty wants to camp, although there are plenty of people who do. It's not that all of a sudden everybody wants to do it. It's the way the maps are designed. So this game breaks a lot of the cardinal rules of multiplayer map design, which just confounds me. This is Infinity Ward. It created essentially the modern first-person shooter, at least multiplayer-wise. And all of these maps they don't have enough pathways, enough ways to avoid contact with the enemy. There are just funnels in the maps where each side of the map is open and has all these buildings you can go into. But as you get closer to the center of the map where the conflict is going to happen, it starts narrowing everything down into like chutes or funnels. So the smart way to play this game is to camp. It's to get in a building, sit in a window, and peek out the window and wait for people to run down these alleyways. There's a couple maps that were a little better, but for the most part, all of them are like this. Like there's one map that takes place in like a city, in an urban area. That should just be ripe to have a billion pathways from one side of the map to the other. Instead, they have like these weird alleys with walls that are too high to climb on each side and have no exits out. So I cannot tell you how many times in this game you turn a corner and you see the pathway ahead and this instinct that just kicks in and just says, no way. I'm not running down that alley. And then you're like, oh, screw it. And then you run 5 steps and there's 8 dudes sitting in a building that just mow you down. This whole game was like this. Almost every mode I played was affected by it. Almost every map, save for a couple, are afflicted with it. And again, that's like base stuff. Like it's hard for me to care about the fact that they changed how kill streaks work when I'm not enjoying the core of the game. And to get to that, kill streaks, they're kill streaks again. They were score streaks for like the last like 9 years because it makes frickin' sense. So in this game, you only get rewarded when you get kills. So if you're doing like what I was just doing there, capturing a flag, or if you send up a UAV and people are getting kills and you're getting like 10 for each kill that's happening while you have your UAV up, those points don't mean anything. They mean nothing. They help you level up your character, but in the context of the actual match, they do nothing. So you're sitting there, you're like, oh, my UAV's up and people are getting tons of kills and oh, plus 10, plus 10, plus 10. And then you realize it's not worth anything. It doesn't freaking matter. It makes playing any role but run and kill in this game seem pointless and frivolous. I tried to give it a fair chance before I saw it in action, and I actually played it. And now that I've played it, it's just as bad as I thought it was going to be. The kill streaks in the game are pretty tame and pretty boring. You also get special abilities in this game, and granted, I didn't get to play it enough to unlock like the later ones, but like the first one that you get is like a shield that you put up in front of you. And like literally, it's always popping up. You have the shield. I never used it because all it does is like clog up a pathway, so you have to climb over the damn thing to get through the pathway. So I hardly ever even used it at all. Man,
I saw the controversy over the white phosphorus.
I mean, they've been talking about that for a while.
Yeah.
I mean, ever since they announced it. And later on in this B-roll, there's like, I go through all the kill streaks.
It is a little weird that one of the kill streaks is a war crime. But
yeah, well, it is. So a bit later in this B-roll, I cycle through all the kill streaks so you can see all of them. And I pause on the white phosphorus so you can read the description of the white phosphorus. It tries to nerf it as much as possible. It doesn't say like the most painful, awful way to ever die.
Because the way it works is like it's just basically just a napalm strike.
That's all it is. Yeah.
Whereas like and I saw people trying to draw like comparisons to the nuke. Well, it's like, well, it's not like a nuke. It's like, yeah, but the nuke ends the match.
It's over.
Like, the nuke is like
finishes it.
Literally the end of everything.
Yeah.
So there's definitely some weight to that. Whereas white phosphorus is like, why don't you just use napalm? Why don't you just call it a bombing
Well, I think
strike?
in Black Ops 2 they did have napalm.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
It was older. I mean, we don't really use napalm anymore either.
Well, no. It's funny though how napalm over time has the impressions of napalm has softened over time, but white phosphorus is this new immediate thing that everybody gets.
Well, also because like there's current veterans who saw it happen. There's not, it's fresher in the minds of, frankly, people young enough to be the audience for this.
Yeah, true.
So I understand that. I mean, is it something that they need to like immediately remove from the game or lose their life? Of course not. But it's like it's a valid criticism, valid question.
Yeah,
it's a little weird that that's in there, and like at that point, why isn't there like a chemical warfare?
Yeah, why is it there just like
exactly? Why can't I throw mustard gas at a guy if I get 5 kills?
Sarin gas or whatever.
Yeah, it's the same kind of thing.
Yep. And the other thing I would say, too, is that you would never guess playing this multiplayer that the campaign is so controversial because it's pretty toned down. There's not a lot.
It looks pretty bog standard in terms of
there's not a lot of blood or there's no gore. So you don't see like jibs or anything like that. If you get close and you light somebody up close, you will see blood. But it's not.
It seems all very esports friendly.
It is very much so, which is weird considering what the reports that have been about the campaign for this game. Some of the unique modes I already talked about. The night vision mode. Another one is called like Data Blink or some crap like that. And basically what it is you have to pick up like this little device and you have to take it close to this receiver and then it takes the information off of it. But it's just like every other first-person shooter that tries to do modes like this, they always become irrelevant. All that it is team deathmatch with just 6 dudes. And like you never accomplish the directives. And what I found was the more I played this, people didn't even try to accomplish the directives anymore. Maybe there was a couple times where we'd have 6 guys left and they'd have 2. And instead of hunting down the last 2 people, we just picked up the objective and just finished it because we're like, why go hunt 2 guys when we can pick this thing up and like deliver it or whatever? But 95% of the time, every match in this game, even though it's like, now you need to go here and defend this, and then it flips and they defend it and you attack. None of that matters. It's basically because it's almost all those modes are once you die, you're dead for good. So they just end up being like which team can kill the other team more quickly. So a lot of the minutia and like the modes that people are going to talk about with this game, most of it's just irrelevant, which is why I focused on the core gameplay concepts when I first started discussing this, because to me, that's what's most important with these games. It's also why I typically just play Team Deathmatch, because that's the core of the game. Like, I'll play some domination here and there, but typically I just play Team Deathmatch, because that's really what I play it for. Can I shoot better than you can? Am I quicker on the draw than you are? Lag... What do you say?
Drawl.
Yeah, there you go. Lag was...
When you listen to this again, listen to that.
I will.
You say draw there and see if you
I
can
probably
hear what
did
I
add
mean.
an L on that one, I'm guessing.
See if you can hear what I mean.
Okay. I guess all that said, I did play it a lot. Like, I had a bunch of games sitting there that I could have cycled through. I had Borderlands 3 sitting there, and I did play this a good bit. I am typically, I do enjoy Call of Duty for the most part.
You seem to be doing pretty well.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not as good as I was in Black Ops, though. Like, for whatever reason, Black Ops, man,
I mean, I've seen some multiplayer footage with you where you're just getting housed over and over again, but you're getting pretty regular kills in that B-roll.
Yeah, but not as good as Black Ops. Black Ops, my KD when I stopped playing was like almost 1.5, which is just crazy. Like, usually I'm around like 1.1, maybe some games 1.2, but in this one I'm around there. I'm like 1.1, 1.2. But, I played this for several days, and I cannot I cannot share with you like one moment where I was like, holy crap, that's awesome. And usually after I spend a few days with a shooter, I'll have like 5 or 6 of those things where I'm like, oh, I can't believe this happened. Like, it's so crazy, blah, blah, blah. Like, they exaggerated the physics in this game a little bit. So one of the cool things that I
definitely just see some guns going flying.
Yep.
Like, somebody dies like, "Wah!"
Yeah, like one time I was running up to a building and one of my teammates was up in the window on the second floor of the building, and I'm running into the bottom floor, and the other team shot a rocket into that window, and he flew out of the window like over my head. And that doesn't happen in Call of Duty usually. Like, usually if you get shot, no matter what you're shot with, you just fall down and you're dead. So it looks like they did exaggerate the physics a little bit to give it maybe some life, but maybe that's the point. There's no life in this game. There's nothing about it that really sets it apart, and most of the stuff that it does, like other shooters, it doesn't do as well. So, you know, I don't know what's left to really evaluate. This was pretty much the whole multiplayer suite. The other thing I would add, too, is that this game has crossplay with everyone. So when you're in, and here are the kill streaks, by the way, I was talking about earlier. So when you're in the lobby, like getting ready to play, it'll have your name. It does not use your gamer tag, Matt. So I was not Dinfire playing this game. When you start playing, it links your account on whatever platform you're playing on. Yeah, there's white phosphorus, but the description's covered up,
That will weaken the enemy?
Yeah. No, it will burn them.
It will melt the enemy.
It will melt the enemy. So anyway, when you're in the lobby getting ready for this match, for a match, it'll show you their name, but it's their Call of Duty name, which I totally forgot I even had. Like, we started playing, and
I'm pretty sure that's the same as my gamer tag.
I tried. Well, see, I noticed because apparently somebody already had taken Dinfire on their Call of Duty servers. So I am the real Dinfire in this. But you can see before you start playing what platform everybody's on. There's a little icon next to their username that'll tell you what platform they're on. Now, I'll say this. Every game I played was all PS4 players. I did not play any cross-platform games. I don't think it was enabled for this weekend because starting on Thursday, they have what they're officially calling the cross-play beta. It's also opening up to Xbox One on Thursday. So this past weekend was PS4 only, open to everybody. On Thursday, open to everyone on PS4 and Xbox One with cross-play support. So I didn't hate it. It's just, to me, like at this point with Call of Duty, you have to have a hook. You have to have something to set yourself apart to make your game feel different. I felt like it plays it really safe, and the places where it did make changes, they weren't for the better. So I guess this game's going to have to hang its hat on its campaign. And maybe the campaign is going to be that crazy and that good that it can, you know, drag it across the finish line. But as far as multiplayer is concerned, like, I'm just going to keep playing Black Ops. The controls worse. The maps are worse. I don't like the weapons as much. Like, some of the other stuff, too, is like, oh, radar. See up there in the top left, Matt? It never goes away. And that's because after one day, the fans were like, you know what? Screw you. Bring the map back. And they were like, okay. So they had this hill that they were going to die on, and it lasted about 12 hours of the game being in beta, and they relented and put it in.
Isn't that censorship?
No, it was the right decision. It should have had
the right decision. But what I'm saying is, like any other time the developer makes a change on something, it's the end of freedom.
No, I hear you.
But
I know what you're saying.
But apparently this time it's like, well, good, because it's what you wanted.
It's what I wanted. Yeah, exactly. So they brought the mini-map back. But the other thing that I found is a lot of...
I don't know why you would want to try to force no map on people. Like, it seems like such a weird thing for this game.
It makes no sense. Why? What are you trying to accomplish with that? Like, I don't get it. You're trying to make people, like, less skilled. Because using the map in this franchise is a skill. Being able to quickly glance at that map, assess it in, like, 1/10 of a second, and then react to it, that's a skill. That's part of being good at Call of Duty. Having those quick eyes, being able to glance up really quickly and see what's going on around you. One thing I do like about this multiplayer is while you're playing, you can see your teammates at all times. So they're like a wireframe behind buildings or whatever. In Black Ops, that was a perk. You had to use up one of your pick 10 slots to have a perk that would show people through the walls, And I absolutely used it because it is invaluable in a shooter to know where your teammates are and what's going on. Because even if the radar isn't working, if you can see a silhouette of your teammates and you can see they're in a firefight, you can run over there and get in the firefight. So, and
people in the chat are arguing over where your name comes from.
Dinfire?
Yeah.
I've talked about this a billion times. It's not a Zelda reference.
Predates Zelda, right?
It does, yeah.
Or at least the Din's Fire in Zelda.
No, it doesn't predate Din's Fire and Ocarina of Time. So I'll say it again. I've told this story a bunch of times just for the people in chat because they're so awesome and they're watching the show live. Din is my DJ name. And when I was a graffiti writer...
As in noise?
Yeah. And then as a graffiti writer, my name was Fire. I wrote F-I-R-E. So I just combined the two into one word. And that was actually before Ocarina of Time came out, where Din's Fire was in there. So it's not a Zelda reference, even though it seems like it's way too simple, and it should be. So there you go. So anyway, I'm pretty disappointed in this. I'm going to play the campaign because I've heard so much about it, and people are saying, it's going to test your ability to, I don't even know what. So I'm going to give it a go. But multiplayer-wise, I'm not a fan of this. I hope other people disagree with me and like it. I just don't. There's too many features missing. The features that they do have, I don't like how they work. And most importantly to me, I feel like the map design is absolutely terrible. Also, the maps are so nondescript. There's like nothing about them like that sets them off. Black Ops, there's always some piece of the map that is iconic or a place on the map that's iconic. That is not the case with this game. It's just like one nondescript building after another, one cave after another, one shanty after another. I don't know. It's Infinity Ward, and I'll be honest with you, I have not really liked an Infinity Ward game since, like, Modern Warfare 2, probably.
You liked
I liked 3.
Infinite Warfare.
All right. I did. I did, actually. Yeah, so I guess I have liked a bunch of their games. I didn't like Ghost.
I didn't like 3. I didn't like Ghost. I liked Infinite Warfare, and then I think that's all of them.
Yeah, I guess that's all of them. Yeah, so I guess I do like Infinity Ward, but I don't like this one. So, anyway... will I play the next beta that kicks off Thursday? No. I have much more important things to do, and I spent plenty of time with it this past weekend knowing that we're at the point of the year where I cannot hover too long on one thing. So I gave it the full go this weekend, and of course I will play it a little bit when the final review code comes out because I'll need to evaluate it, but I'm not particularly excited about it. So there you go. That's the last you'll hear about Call of Duty Modern Warfare until it comes out. Because they've covered everything. They're being masterful with how they're staggering stuff so that it stays in the news cycle. It's been on this show, I know, 3 out of the last 4 episodes because they keep putting out these little things. Well, not even little, but they're just very good about staggering information in betas so that it's always a part of the discussion. So
maybe I'll play this one since they're emphasizing the campaign so much.
Yep. I mean,
just to see what the deal is.
At this point for me, that's like its big redeeming factor, hopefully, is that the campaign is really good. And I'll say this, Infinity Ward's campaigns, other than Ghost, are pretty damn good.
I didn't like 3's very much.
Yep. Well, 3 to me was,
3 was sort of a Ghost skeleton crew, though, because that was right after the brain drain.
That's when they all left. Yep, they were in transition at that point, and it was still good, but not that memorable.
Yeah, it wasn't Infinity Ward.
Yeah, it wasn't. No.
But Infinite
what
Warfare,
even is that anymore?
Infinite Warfare was up there. I mean,
it was great.
It wasn't Titanfall 2,
yeah,
but it was a really cool take on a different thing that they hadn't done before, and I liked it.
And they'll never do it again. All right, let's move on to our penultimate topic for today's episode. We're going to talk about August NPDs, kinda, but we're really just going to talk about the health of the industry right now. So, Matt, I don't know if you saw the news or not, but August of 2019 was a 20-year low for video game sales in America.
Yeah, that's about covers my purchasing habits that month, too.
Yeah.
Not a lot came out.
Yeah, I mean, some stuff did. So Control came out.
Yeah, well, Control wasn't exactly setting the charts on fire, was it?
Oh. Dude, it came in 23rd. 23rd. Now, it came out at the end of the month, but dude.
But still, you're front-loaded enough that coming in that far back is...
23rd. And we had talked about how Remedy's games don't sell. Yep. And we were trying to figure out why.
Man, I've been talking to people that I know, in my gaming chat, like in Discords and stuff, about like Control. I'm like, hey, Control, and I'm the only one who's played it.
Yeah.
Like, not, even people that I know, like X-Files, SCP stuff, weird paranormal stuff, like psychic throwing telekinetic thing, like people that are exactly the people who would love this game. They don't know about it. They vaguely heard of it. They didn't think it looked very interesting, and I'm like, it's good. Go
Yeah,
I know you'll like this because you like this thing and this thing and this thing. Go try it. And they come back after like 2 hours and they're like, oh, I tried it. It's great. And I'm like, yeah. But no, I mean, and look, man, I had the same reaction to all the stuff I saw of it until I literally bought it out of obligation to play it for this. Yeah. And yeah, I loved it. But like, if it wasn't for that, I never would have even touched it. I don't know. I don't even know why. I don't know how to tell you why looking at it in the pre-release stuff and the trailers and why that just made me go meh. Like my whole reaction to it was just meh.
Yeah.
And then I played it and it's great.
It's amazing. Yeah. it's really sad to see that. I mean, my guess is it maybe cracks the top 10 for September, maybe.
If they're really lucky. You know what did almost crack the top 10 was Spider-Man.
I saw that.
Spider-Man came in 11th in August, a year after it came out.
I mean, that shows you, though, where the industry's at right now.
Where the industry is, and also, like, the Spider-Man hype was huge in August.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Because of the movie and because of the Sony deal falling through, and Into the Spider-Verse hit Netflix, I think, that month or the month before.
It did.
So, yeah.
Yep.
But, yeah, you want to know why they bought Insomniac.
Yeah, that's why.
Because that thing is a juggernaut.
It has legs, for sure. I mean, it's Spider-Man.
Yeah.
And if you make a good Spider-Man game, you're going to get rewarded, as you should.
Unless you're Shaba Games.
Yeah.
And then you're just going to get shut down by Activision.
So Control finished in the 23rd spot for August, which is, wow. Remedy has just got to be, like, crying, man. Madden finished first, which it always does in August. Yeah. But overall...
I think 10th was Astral Chain.
Yeah, it did. It cracked the top 10. So
I was right. Astral Chain did sell better than Control.
It did.
I had some people tell me I was crazy because Control's multi-platform, so obviously it's going to sell more because it's got an advantage. I'm like, no, it's Remedy.
It didn't.
And Astral Chain is on the Switch, and it's exclusive, so...
yeah. I mean, I'm glad to see that game crack the top 10, though.
Yeah, I mean...
It's encouraging.
Platinum getting some sales love is always good.
I don't even know that it matters. Like, I think Nintendo just paid it to make the game.
But it's nice to, see more people play Platinum stuff, even though I think Platinum is kind of overrated overall, but, like, they're still good games and people should experience them and learn what a real combat system feels like once in a while. So
absolutely.
It's a positive thing, I think.
So, look, Control selling poorly sucks, and I feel terrible for Remedy, and I feel like it deserves better. But the big story here is that August was the lowest sales for 20 years. That's insane, Matt.
End of the summer.
Is that all it is? I mean, August is always the end of the summer. It's the lowest August in 20 years.
Yeah, but August is also always the lowest in general. It's just the worst ever. So,
what do you think it says, Matt?
I think it says it was a bad month.
You think that's all it means?
Everything else this year has been like up over month over month or year over year and everything. It's a slump. It's the end of summer. People were on vacation. People doing other things. There wasn't really that much compelling coming out. And the one thing that was compelling was this, and no one cared. What else was there in August really other than Madden?
Yeah, it was. I know doing Dossier with Vincent. August was a slow month for sure. Like there were four kind of big
notable
games.
Things. You had what? Madden, you had Control,
filler.
you had Astral Chain. And I'm blanking.
No, I mean you're right though. I mean that's pretty much all there was.
People got catching up on cheaper games, like
Could be.
Spider-Man, the Game of the Year version. Obviously, people catching up on that. I mean August, summer's slow. August, I mean, there's a reason the summer drought happens, just because people aren't spending game money on that kind of thing, and just yet.
But it's 20 years. I mean, you got to think about all the generations that have gone through that 20 years, and for this one to have the worst.
Are they counting that like total revenue or like copies
total
sold,
dollars spent on the gaming industry for that month?
Yeah, that's pretty low. But I mean, I wouldn't worry about it until September does the same thing. Really.
Do you think it might be an indictment on these elongated console life cycles?
No, because I don't think the consoles are. I think the new consoles are coming too soon. It might be an indictment on
Sony not releasing anything.
No, I think it might be more of a result of like trying to get people hooked on games as a service that you play for a long time, and they at a certain point, if there's nothing especially compelling hitting shelves in August, why don't you just keep playing the game you like? That's the whole point of games like Destiny or whatever, is to keep you playing that. But I can totally see if you're looking at a kind of a lackluster release schedule for August, and your funds are limited. You don't want to spend $60 on something that you don't know is going to be really good or really engaging. You're like, well, at least I know I like Destiny, or I know I like game as a service of your choice that you would go back to and play. I mean, I don't want to say Anthem because I don't think anybody went back and played Anthem, but like, that kind of thing. It's like you're trying to engage people for longer. One of the results is going to be like, well, I'd rather play this thing I enjoy rather than take a risk on this $60 thing I don't know about.
Do you think that we're finally starting to see some actual fallout from the games as a service trend?
It's possible. I think it's definitely in conjunction with the weak release schedule of August, but I think that could be part of it.
It was a recipe for disaster.
It could definitely explain why it was an historic low. I mean, because you have to have an X factor in there somewhere, so that could be it. And I mean, it's that doesn't necessarily mean it's a terrible thing, because if you're playing a game longer, you're still pumping money into that game probably in some form, so someone's making money out. You're still a good capitalist one way or the other.
Yeah, I mean, look, NPD doesn't track
any of that stuff. Yeah. So who knows? Like,
I mean, it could just be a culmination of everything.
Yeah.
People going digital and not buying packaged games as much as they used to.
Yeah, it doesn't count digital, so you're already off in crazy town there.
I mean, the release schedules are pretty sparse now. Let's be honest. There's tons of indies coming out, like there always will be, and there's lots of kind of trash coming from Japan. But as far as the big releases are concerned, they're starting to thin out, because especially the first-party stuff, because they're all starting to focus on Generation 9 at this point. I think it's just a culmination of all of that. And consequently, it was announced this week, GameStop is closing like hundreds of stores around the globe in the next like couple months.
I mean, that's nothing new.
Yeah.
And then like you saw the thing where somebody leaked like the walkthrough of one of their redone stores, and like
it was kind of exactly what I was talking about.
Yeah,
it has like a little loungy couch area with a TV.
And then like you going back and there's like there's like tube TV, like CRT TVs for like retro gaming, and like just like a table with nothing on it for like board games or like Magic the Gathering or something.
It sounds like they listened to GameFace. I know they did.
Turn it into like some kind of like, I mean, they said that they're turning like, they have the esports thing, but it's going to be more of a like the template is the board game store, the local board games shop, where people hang out for hours and hours on
show up for tournaments
or weekends or whatever. It's just a place. It's a social place to be. That's what they're aiming for. But the thing is, like, it's GameStop.
Yeah, it can only be so cool.
Like there's like one of the reasons I think the local game store works in that regard is because almost all of them are locally owned, individual personal touch stores.
Where the owner.
Even the really big ones, even the really huge ones, like especially like the Peninsula has some big ones. There's some big ones in LA. But you go in there and the guy who owns it is there.
Right. And he's there every day.
Yeah, the woman who owns it is there. She's the one who brings tea into the room and gives people free tea every day. It's like and there's always a gimmick. There's always a trick. Like one of the ones I like up in Burbank, not only does it have tea and like a little like kind of like coffee bar, but it's also an animal rescue. So like there's a room that's just full of kittens. Like that's not going to be at GameStop.
No, definitely not.
Not going to be any kittens
Definitely not. The one thing that kind of struck me, you mentioned that like walkthrough. I almost had B-roll of that, but I couldn't find a way to get the video. What struck me the most was how uncluttered the store was.
Yeah, it was very streamlined, very clean. It didn't look like a GameStop. I'll give it that.
Yeah.
It definitely looked like a shop.
It looked like that store Anvil that opened up here in LA for a while and then got busted for like selling chipped consoles and shut down.
And other things. Yes.
And among other things. Yeah. Were they selling drugs out of there? Is that what it was?
That was what I heard, yeah. Remember, we used to be like, God, how can they afford to keep that space?
Yeah.
When they must barely sell like 5 things a day or something.
Yeah.
We're like, oh, they're slanging dope out of the back of the... Okay, that makes sense. I like that store a lot.
It was nice, but that's kind of what that GameStop looks like.
Yeah.
It has like hardwood floors and like everything's up on a shelf on the wall. There's only like a couple little like roller things on the floor.
Yeah,
and
they're very much trying to invite you to come in and browse
and hang
out. And I mean, it's a good layout. It's just, I don't know if it's going to be enough to save you.
I think it's the best thing they could have done We'll see if it actually works.
Right. I mean,
and I'll say this, like,
their options are limited. I mean, the one thing I will say is, like, people seem to be very drastically overestimating how fast this is going to happen if GameStop does go away. Like, we're talking 3 to 5 years from now, minimum.
Yeah.
Like,
it's like PAX says, they're probably going to live through this generation.
Oh yeah. Like, I see people say, "Oh my God, I don't know if I'm going to be able to like." I hope they're still around so I can use my reward points from the new consoles. I'm like, they're definitely going to be around. I mean, maybe the one closest to you won't be, but you will be within driving distance of a GameStop for that. I guarantee you.
The other thing I would say too is that, you know, for us living in a big city, GameStop is a lot different. So to us, it's just kind of this thing you walk into, you buy what you want or what you need, and then you walk out.
For me, it's the thing I walk past
or
on the way to buy when I'm going to.
Or in that case. But if you go to, like, the little town my mom lives in, where I was at, you know, like a month or so ago for Labor Day, it's different there. Like, the gamers in that town, they do hang out there. Like, you go in, and there's a crew of, like, 12 or 13 dudes, like, hanging out around the counter or just messing with, like, the demo kiosk and they're not buying stuff. They're just in there chilling. Like, that doesn't happen in, like, major cities at GameStop.
Yeah, well, here's the other thing is, yeah, I used to run a game store back. It wasn't in San Francisco, but it was in the area. And people that hang out at board game places all day, in my experience, are people who are there to help people learn new games. They tend to pick up expansion stuff while they're there to kind of like build their decks or do whatever. The people who hang out at video game stores all day never spend a goddamn dime.
They don't. They just want a place to hang out.
They're just there to hang out and play games for free as much as they can.
Yeah.
So I think you're talking about a very different demographic there, because the other thing I've noticed in the last several years is board games have expanded and become a bigger and bigger thing. Tabletop stuff is a big deal now in geek spaces.
Analog.
They are. It's very hard to find people who are like, you know, because a lot of my social circle are video game people. A lot of those people don't want to play board games. They're very. Yeah. It's a different audience. So I don't know how well that is going to translate to, because it takes maybe a different kind of person who wants to sit down for an hour and figure out how to play Arkham Horror with you. You know, it's a different.
I would argue that GameStop should be selling that stuff before it's selling like all the tchotchkes and swag that it's selling.
Somewhat. I mean, the Funko stuff apparently sells. Like, I don't know how.
I don't either.
Who
doesn't? Who needs another Funko
and they're
Pop
constantly
at this point?
overflowing with those things.
Like falling down.
It looks like they're never sold at all. But I guess they're successful in that regard.
That's surprising.
Even that walkthrough, you can see it's like 80% non-game stuff. That's all desk toys, basically.
Yeah.
Not for me. I mean, even though I have ended up with a handful of Funko Pops over the years, because they collect. They're like gremlins. Like.
So if this is how August was in 2019, what's it going to be like in 2020?
Maybe worse, maybe better.
I feel like the industry is going to be dragging itself to the starting grid of Generation 9.
Well, I mean, you do usually see kind of a pullback from release schedule in the run-up to new consoles. We've seen it
with PlayStation, obviously.
So, PlayStation, but also I'm talking also like third parties that like at the very least want to time their releases on the current consoles with the same release on a new console.
Yeah.
The one thing that may throw a monkey wrench into that is if they're both backwards compatible with like enhancements, maybe you don't have as much of a reason to hold that back. Like you know, people can still play your game. They don't have to. You know, it's not like It's not like releasing the 360 version of something like 3 months before the Xbox One comes out, where you can't play the 360 version on the Xbox One. Like if you're just like, oh, I'll buy it now and then I'll keep playing it on my new system and it'll look even better. Like, you know, there's no real downside to buying it like before the new system comes out, because it'll still work.
I mean, Grand Theft Auto 5, perfect example. Just turned 6 years old today, by the way.
Oh yeah. You know what else?
Think about that.
Today is the 35th anniversary of the original airing of Transformers.
No way.
September 17th, 1984.
Some things make me feel older than others. That one definitely makes me feel old.
35 years.
J. Reed Vick says Walmart is amazing late at night. I don't know how much that has to do with games or the people that are in Walmart late at night. Man, if you go to rural areas and go to Walmart at late at night, you're taking your life in your own hands, or at least your sanity.
Around here we have 7-Elevens for that. Yeah. It says 7-Eleven down the end of the street I live on, and going there like after 10 p.m. is amazing. Yeah. Every time. It's so...
It's like a box of chocolates.
Yeah.
You never know what you're going to
get. The other thing that I love was I got this little app that tells me like crime reports in the area, and I got a report from Ralph's that a man in a wheelchair threw a stick through the front door of Ralph's, and someone called 911 for that. I'm like, all right.
Like he threw like a stick through the glass, or he just threw it into the...
He was angry and he just threw a stick through the open door, and someone called the cops for that.
Some people,
apparently.
man,
So.
some people haven't been through much, I guess.
Well, it's a wild night in Hollywood, everyone. Like
Stick throwing.
stick throwing at the grocery store.
Yeah. All right, it's time to move on to the last topic of episode 182 of GameFace. And as you guys have seen on our lower third, we are polishing everything off with our impressions of Borderlands 3. Matt, I have a feeling that this might be the best-selling third-party game this year.
I think Breakpoint has a shot.
Yeah.
Because the precedent's there from Wildlands. But it'll do well.
Yeah.
No doubt.
Do you think it deserves to do well?
Here's the thing, so I've played a fair amount of this.
I've played a lot of it.
I did get mild food poisoning this weekend. So and I developed a fever from that. Like shortly after I ate the thing that made me sick. Do not order sausage McMuffins at 10 p.m. That sausage patty has been sitting there a while.
Yep.
But I started to feel the fever while I was playing this, and I'm like, did Borderlands give me a fever? I was like, is the only prescription more DACA? I don't know, but it's Borderlands.
Yeah.
Just in like 4K and with some quality of life improvement. It's just Borderlands. I'm glad that after 10 years they finally figured out that it's better to not make me press a button to pick the money up out of the container.
Yeah.
And the ammo out of containers. Like, there's some nice streamlining happening here, but it is still just Borderlands.
That's pretty much the extent of the changes.
Yeah. I mean, there's if there is an if it ain't broke, don't fix it element to this, because it's not like Borderlands is an unsuccessful franchise, but I really have spent a lot of time playing this feeling like I've done it all before. It's not that I'm not enjoying it, but
I think I've reached the point where I'm not really enjoying it anymore. I haven't got to the point yet where I don't like it and I don't want to play it, but I have reached the point where the game is not convincing me to keep playing it.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of reached that point about halfway through Borderlands 2 and never looked back.
I've never finished a Borderlands.
I finished Borderlands 1. And I think I finished Borderlands 2.
I always get to this point with these games. Like
I did finish Borderlands 2. I remember the end of Borderlands 2. So I finished it, but the only reason I finished Borderlands 2 is because I was playing with a group and I basically had to. And then we tried to play some of the DLC, and I think we got through Tiny Tina's D&D expansion thing and Hammerlock's thing, and that was about it. I don't think we went back for the other stuff.
I have had pretty much the same experience with every Borderlands, all three of them now.
I've never played the pre-sequel, though.
I never played it either because I didn't like the base games all that much. But with these games, typically I get about 14 or 15 hours in, and I stall.
I will say this.
That's pretty much where I'm at right now.
I will say this. Going to different planets is pretty much exactly what this series needed. Getting off of Pandora helps. There is sort of a moment about 2 hours after you do that the first time where you realize you're still just doing the same fucking thing.
It is.
But at least it's not the same
environment.
There's some
there's some
city,
new enemies.
There's a swamp.
Yeah.
So I mean, they mixed it up before, but now it's you have a ship you can go on. By the way, the ship, your ship is your home base sort of thing where all the characters hang out and all that stuff. It is one of the most confusingly laid out home bases in the history of video games. I thought that fucking submarine.
I thought I was alone.
I thought that fucking submarine in Wolfenstein: The New Colossus was bad. This thing is I'm continually trying to figure out where the frickin' cargo bay is. I have no idea where they want.
Well, I know where it is. You go all the way to the end, and then you spin around, and it's down the ramp.
And then you fall down something, and then you get.
No, that mission.
God damn it! I'm in Moxie's bar again. Why did I get here?
That happened to me too. When they were find a cargo bay. I'm like, where's the freaking cargo bay? And the way the map works, it's there's 3 levels of the ship, and you'll go to the waypoint. You may have turned yours off. But you go to the waypoint, but it's actually not that floor. But then there's no staircase that takes you down, so you have to go find where the other staircase. That only goes down one floor.
I mean, the map is improved because it does show 3 dimensions now.
Yeah.
But there's still moments especially in that first new planet you go to, which is all multi-level city stuff. There are a couple times where I'm like, where do you want me to go?
Yeah.
Just tell me where you want me to go. It was up here, it was down here, and then eventually I figured out there's there was more climbing and platforming in the game than I thought there was going to be.
Yeah.
A lot of driving.
A lot of looting, man. That's what
loot.
really wears me out with this franchise is that I just get sick of it after a while. Like, there is so much loot. And the crazy part about it is it's color-coded, like most games. So you do know, like, how rare something is before you go to pick it up.
But it happens real... I mean, I'm not even picking greens up anymore. Like,
no.
Like, I'm, like, level 15 or something. I'm just like, green, fuck that. If it's less than purple, I think I have to like kind of consider it at this point. And to be fair, they do give you the rarer stuff faster in this one than they did in the others. So I mean, about halfway through this, like what I was playing, like the bosses started dropping golds, which I'm sure will be useless in like 3 hours.
And that's the thing is
you're never done.
It's too much. It's too much. Like, after you finish a fight in a room, there are like 150 pieces of loot like laying on the ground, and it's like...
And a lot of it's just ammo you can't pick up.
Right. A lot of it's ammo you can't pick up.
you have to go up to it to find that out.
You have to go up to it to find it out. And then the other thing, I don't know if this has been happening with you, like when you put your reticle on the piece of loot, it shows you like what it is. Mm-hmm. But you have to look down, so the actual level of the loot is off screen.
It pops
have you
up.
noticed this?
Yeah, you have to back up.
And you have to back up to see it. Like, bro, that's just 101 dipshit shit. Like, what the hell? Like, how did nobody testing this say, bro, I cannot see what this is without having to back up and see it? It's just dumb. It's like a fundamental thing that they just overlooked. And there's just so much loot. And you're right, like the color coding is a good guide to go by. But every once in a while, like you'll find something that has like a color that's like base or whatever. And then you actually go up and you realize, oh my God, that's a grenade that's like twice as powerful as the one I'm using right now. Mm-hmm. So you have to look at all of it. It drives me crazy. And the inventory is so small. I'm throwing stuff on the ground that, like, I coveted, like, 10 minutes earlier. I'm like, oh, my God, I got, like, a 126 assault rifle. And you're like, holy crap. And then, like, 10 minutes later, you get 5 other guns that are more powerful than it. Like...
I mean, I've expanded my the inventory.
So did I,
pretty
and the
much,
ship or whatever, where you could go and pay for it. I pay everything. I put all of it into my slots, and still...
That, and I put a lot in the ammo for my preferred gun types because there's not a lot of ammo in this game.
No, you run out of ammo like all the time.
So I'm the gunner. I'm the girl with the mech because of course I am.
Yep.
She does get an ability that every time you get a critical hit, she gets like 3 seconds of ammo regen. So I never run out of bullets.
Oh, that's nice.
Now. So that's pretty solid. But until I got that, I was like, God, I keep running out of bullets. Like. Which I've never had as a problem in this series before.
Yep,
like,
I run out all the time, and I'm playing as Flak, and Flak has, you can see right now.
I almost picked Flak. That was my other choice.
So Flak is the Beastmaster, and there are several different creatures that you can, and you have to in the skill tree you choose which creature you want to use, and each one of them has completely different abilities. Like this one is like a bug that spits acid, but you can also go into the skill tree and you can set it up so that as you deal X amount of damage, he starts tossing health containers to you. So I very rarely die when I'm using him as like my beast or whatever, but each one of them has like a thing. And what I haven't found that like, oh, this only works here. Like they're pretty flexible and will work almost anywhere. But certain boss fights and things like that, the creature that you send out there makes a huge difference. And not only are there kind of those passive abilities that they do, like you can also instruct your creatures. So I can put my reticle at an enemy, I could tap L1, and he'll do like a super attack on an enemy. Is that how it works for your character?
No, my character works like Diva, basically.
Oh, okay.
So except like instead of the mech being sort of the standard mode, the mech is her super.
Okay.
So I am basically just like a run and gun character, and in fact, she also has several abilities that make her more deadly when moving. Like that's one of her big things is she doesn't have to stop.
Okay.
There's bonuses for killing people while sprinting with her. In fact, she gets an ability that lets her shoot while sprinting. So when you want to do your super, you hit left bumper, and the mech comes down, and she gets in. And you just blow the shit out of stuff until you run out of shield and or fuel. The way the mech design works is like her skill trees are all based around weapons to equip on the mech. So like you've got like a Gatling gun you can put on the mech, one arm, and then you have 2 arms, so you can put one on one arm, and then you have so I usually use a Gatling gun on one arm and a rail gun on the other. You can put the same gun on both if you want. You can, and then like you get more weapons and mods for them as you go down the tree. Like I unlocked the flamethrower and a couple other things, but I don't find any of the new stuff I've unlocked as effective as just the good old Gatling gun and rail gun combo.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's very powerful. You just wreck stuff, but most of this, you get a lot of abilities that upgrade the types of damage and how much ammo and how much heat because the mech is limited by heat instead of ammo on each weapon. So you can get abilities that help with that, but at the same time, they also usually have a beneficial effect on her when she's not in the mech.
Okay.
So I have an ability that every time I get a critical hit, I regen ammo. I have an ability that I think at this point, every 4 shots is an incendiary bullet that does not use ammo at all. She's got a lot of cool stuff.
I mean, the trees are pretty crazy.
Yeah,
I've been playing this game for a while, and I'm still only on like the second row. Mm-hmm. Like, and there's like 8 and it goes down because some of them because and there's 3 trees. And, like, some of them, like, I've been putting multiple points in. Like, the one that increases my health bar or the one that increases the damage that my beasts dole out. Like, I've put, like, several in those. But still, like, I'm only, like, on the second step down out of, like, 8 on those trees. Like,
it takes a while.
They've definitely built this game to be viable over the long haul. I mean, when you have trees like that,
they definitely expect you to play it a couple of times through.
Like I think they expect you to play it a long freaking time. Yeah, now you're seeing the trees right here. So I guess there's not 8. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different rows there. But the trees are pretty extensive, and that's one thing I do like about it is like the flexibility I have even with just my character. He has like 5 different creatures that he can summon, and they all function differently. Like, some of them are good for taking on aerial enemies. Some of them are good for taking on tanks. Some of them are like all-purpose. It gives you a lot of flexibility how you play within just one character because there's only the 4 to choose from, which is a little weird for a modern game. But
I mean, that's always been Borderlands. But I will say this: I wasn't interested in any of the classes in the run-up, but the opening cinema did make me interested in the class. Like the opening cinema gives a good kind of a good rundown of what each one does and why.
For sure. Yeah.
But then they don't explain why you suck after that. like at least Borderlands 2, at least like you were in the train crash. Yeah. And like that's why you lost all your stuff and you were injured, so you had to kind of rebuild yourself from back up. This one is just like, nah, you're just not very good.
We haven't even talked about the story, actually, the plot in this. I'm a little lost because I didn't finish either of the prior 2 Borderlands games. I don't know how much it ties in.
It ties in the sense that characters return from it, but that's about it. Like, there's no real...
Yeah, you're basically just a vault hunter. You're a mercenary.
Yeah, and you hook up with Lilith, who was the siren
the leader of the... What's the...
Crimson Raiders.
Crimson Raiders, yeah.
And Lilith was the playable siren in the first Borderlands. A couple other characters show up, but there's oddly enough, not all of them do, so there's a few, like, no-shows in it, and... obviously, there's a couple people that died in the last one in Borderlands 2, so they won't be here. But it's so there's a little bit of that. There's some NPCs that show up. That Ellie's in there, and Tannis and Moxie, obviously. I do still miss Scooter, who died in I think 2.
Spoiler.
Catch a ride. Yeah, but Ellie's very funny too. But it's weird how I like the core characters. Like I like Ellie and Lilith and I love, is it Tannis, the weird doctor who like is the expert on iridium?
Yep.
Like I love her. I liked her in 2 and all the audio logs. So she's like so.
I like almost all the characters.
She's like weirdly sociopathic, but the once you get out of that core cast, like everyone else, like the rest of the characters and the rest of the script is pretty much like we went on Reddit 3 years ago and culled all the memes we could find and made each one into a character.
Well, there's an undercurrent in the plot in this game. Like it takes shots at like influencers and YouTubers, like that's also constantly. That's also the bad guys in this game are influencers.
The twins are are Twitch streamers basically.
Yeah,
but I find that kind of irritating. Not in the sense that I like
because those people make them a lot of money.
No, more in the sense that element was not part of this universe until this game.
Right.
Which also kind of goes to show you how long this frickin' series has been going. But, like, there was no streaming before.
It didn't even exist then.
None of that stuff existed. And, like, kind of dragging it into the universe and the lore to kind of, just so you can make your cheap jokes about, like, influencer crap is a little bleh to me.
Yeah.
Like, and also they're just not as compelling villains as Handsome Jack was.
I think the villains suck.
Yeah, they're not. And I just don't understand why I don't just kill them.
Yeah, they do such awful stuff, and I still don't hate them because I'm just ambivalent to them. Like, I just don't care.
What I will say is, the main story and kind of the main stuff on that is not very interesting to me, and I don't find most of it entertaining outside of the individual characters that I know from the previous games. But the incidental dialogue, the one-liner incidental dialogue in this is phenomenal.
Yeah.
Like, there's like I've laughed more at the one-offs from the dying bandits than I have at all the script, the main script stuff combined.
Yeah.
Like when the bandit dies and he's just like, it's like my secret chili recipe dies with me.
Yeah, I know you're right.
It's like, or like when you blow one guy's head off and he says something like, it's like, oh, I gotta wear a helmet. I'm like, what? And one time I came out of the new U machine after you die, you get reconstituted, or when they say thing. And one time I got out and it says Hyperion's new you will reconstitute you no matter how you die, unless you die in a cutscene.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's very funny. Because
self-referential.
Because I kept saying that when characters would die in Borderlands. I'm like, why don't they just re-res?
Right.
Like, that's the whole thing in this game. The only other thing I would say in that regard is the replacement Claptrap voice ain't doing it for me.
No, it's
like,
not great.
He's close. It
is pretty close. I'm surprised they found someone that close.
I mean, it's really close, but it's just not Dave Eddings.
I think the voice acting overall in this game is really good, though.
It is very good.
The script isn't amazing. It's not terrible, but it's not amazing either. But the voice actors are great. What's the one character's name? She's kind of the portly girl. Ellie. She's awesome.
She's great.
She's a great character.
She's been great for 2-3 games.
Yeah.
I'm not a big fan.
Does she have the same voice actor this time?
I believe everyone's voice actor is the
except for
same.
Claptrap.
Except for Claptrap and Riz. Troy Baker did not return as the guy from.
I remember reading a story about that.
Yeah, there was a whole thing about that. I think a couple of those characters from the Telltale game are different.
Yeah.
But everyone I think except for Claptrap in terms of the main cast from the previous Gearbox made games I think is the same. At least
did we ever?
I
don't think we still shared the plot, did we?
I think
we went on a tangent.
Like the twins are blowing stuff up, and Lilith's looking for the last vault or something, and so you find a map and you get a spaceship.
She needs
and
a
fly
map.
away.
It's a race to make it to this vault before the twins.
It's the same story as the other damn games. It's like there's a vault, and you got to get there before the bad guys.
Yeah, that's accurate.
Except in this one, you go to other planets.
Yeah. Because the vault isn't on the planet that you're on.
Yeah, which is good because it's nice to see more of the world, not world, but like the universe. That you don't really think of Borderlands as having a universe, really.
No.
But like, it's interesting to see sort of other places in this weird tongue-in-cheek universe they've created here, and like you see the headquarters of like the various corporations and stuff, and.
Yep.
That's kind of fun, but like it's also sort of weird in the sense that there is sort of an assumption on the part of the game that you care about the backstory of Borderlands. Which is
they think you really care about it.
like Tales from the Borderlands is good, but I don't know if that like carries over that far really. But
yeah,
I mean, there's a lot of stuff in it that is like a nice streamline. I mean, I think the shooting feels a little better.
I don't think it feels great though.
It doesn't feel great, but it does feel better. It doesn't feel quite as plinky as the other ones did, even with like the low level guns. The variety in guns in this one actually feels a little more meaningful than it did before.
It's insane how many guns there are.
But I mean, there is still a problem. Like, if I find one that I really like, there's nothing I can do to keep it after like a few hours.
Yeah, because it runs out of its usefulness. You can't level it up to a place where you can keep using it.
And there's some weird little thing. They still got the teleporting gun, or you throw the gun instead of reloading, you throw it and it blows up. Like, that was actually more effective this time. There's a couple new ones. There's like ones where like they don't reload, they have infinite ammo, but they self-destruct after like 50 bullets you fire or something like that.
Yeah, the guns are insane. And
a lot of them have auto fire and like or alternate fire, and the alternate fire stuff tends to be really fun.
I'll say this: like every time I equip a new gun, I'm excited to see what it'll do because you never know. You just don't until you start firing it and seeing how it operates.
I also think, just in my experience, I think one of the things that used to annoy me about the old games is when I'd find like a purple or a gold and I'd equip it, and it sucked.
Yeah.
You know, even if whatever the stats were okay, but it would be like a type of gun I didn't like, or it would do something that I didn't like the way it worked. I haven't run into that. Even if it's a type of gun that I don't prefer to use, the purples and the golds tend to still be useful and not annoying. Because like you'd have like, oh, this rocket launcher fires like 6 rockets, and it would fire them just like out horizontally.
Right,
Like, I can't hit
like
anything
a cone, yeah.
You know, and it's like they're much better about making the guns useful, I would say. Like I haven't run into any complete duds outside of ones I look at the stats, I'm like, well, you suck, you know. But like the ones that, especially the ones with the red text, which are kind of more, you know, intentionally named guns or designed guns to some degree, I find those to be way more useful in this game. So I'm not having a bad time.
Yeah, me either. I've enjoyed the time I spent with it. I just feel like I've kind of reached the point where I'm not enjoying it that much anymore.
Like I could play it some more, or I could not play it some more.
I think what I'm going to
I'd be
do,
fine either way. Really.
I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to start playing it co-op.
Mm-hmm.
I've been playing it by myself all this time so far, and I think I'm going to fire up that social menu and start getting people into games with me and playing with other people. Hopefully people that I know that I want to kind of talk to while I play, because it does start to get repetitive. I mean, it's good that there are new planets because each one of them kind of gives you a new set of enemies and a new set of environments and colors and all that. But it still ultimately ends up, I mean, you've been watching this B-roll. Does it not all look the same?
Yeah.
I mean, it does ultimately when it comes down to it. Like, the guys just, now they're level 12 instead of being level 11. And it takes 10 bullets to drop them instead of 8.
You know, don't think about it too much or you'll never play an RPG again.
Yeah, no, you're right. And one thing I would say, too,
I
is
remember
like,
when I first realized that when I was like 12. I was like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
I'm still doing the same thing I was doing 30 hours ago, but the numbers that pop up over their heads are bigger now.
They're bigger, and that's pretty much all it is.
That's the only difference.
I will say one thing, you know,
that's why story is important in an RPG.
It is, yeah. We were talking earlier about, you know, how I was saying how the game hasn't changed that much, and now you've kind of said it as well. And you're like, but you know, it's Borderlands or whatever. I mean, this was kind of one of the first, like, first-person shooter RPGs.
Yeah.
And I feel like...
At least to really lean into that aspect of it.
And I feel like we gave it a pass on a lot of stuff when it first came out because we're like, but there's nothing else like it, so whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But
now there's a lot of other stuff like it, and a lot of it is the other games in the series.
Right.
I
feel like we needed to see more progression in this one than we have.
A little bit. I mean, and I can understand why you think there was enough progression here with the changes to, like, jumping to the different planets and, like, but it's just, I don't know, like, there's some, I mean, and the classes are interesting. Like, I'm enjoying playing my new class. I don't feel like it's the same as, I mean, it is pretty much the same as the old soldier class.
Yeah.
In the sense that I'm good with guns. I can blow stuff up real effectively, and when I need a super move, I can pull out this thing that makes me effectively invulnerable and fires out really dangerous ammo, except now I get in it instead of hiding behind it. Right? It's the same thing as the soldier classes.
I love my class, too. It's fun. Yeah, it's mindless fun. I guess that's the best way I can describe it in a couple words.
So, I mean, you know...
Should people buy it? Keeping in mind that
look, you already know whether you like this or not if you play Borderlands.
Yeah,
like,
if you've ever played it before, you know exactly what you're getting.
Yeah, the one thing I will say is I'm playing on Xbox One X. It runs okay. I have it in performance mode, but performance mode gives you a massive hit to, like, pop in and detail fade in, and switching it to graphics mode, the frame rate sucks.
Really?
And so, and apparently the Xbox One X is, like, the best of the consoles for that. I hope they can improve the technical performance because I think it is a little underwhelming in terms of performance, especially for something that requires precision like this. You want, you know, and fighting all these enemies, you want it to run pretty smooth, and it does run pretty smooth most of the time. But I feel like the graphical hit you take when you switch to performance mode, at least for me, feels like it has to dial it down a little more than it should. But it does look pretty good in general. I mean, I've always liked the art style of Borderlands.
Me too. I think this is easy. I mean, not even just on a technical level, but artistically, this is the best looking Borderlands game. I have a friend in Philly who just bought a PS4, and I saw him when I was home for Labor Day, and he was talking to me about it. He's like, I just got it. I don't really have any games yet, and he bought Borderlands 3. And he texted me this weekend. He's like, do you have Borderlands? And I'm like, yeah, I have it. He's like, what do you think of it? I'm like, what do you think of it? Because he's not a hardcore gamer at all. Mm-hmm. And he hasn't even owned a console, he said, since like the N64 or something. And he got a PS4 and he got Borderlands. And he said, even him, he was like, it's kind of the same thing over and over, isn't it? And I was like, yep. I'm like, you may not have played games for the last like 15 years, but you're no idiot. So I don't think you have to be a video game critic to see kind of the game's faults, but it's also gorgeous and fun. And
and another thing I like is like you get pretty early on, you get the wheel bike.
Yeah.
Like it's basically General Grievous's wheel thing, but and as someone who messed with the vehicles a lot in multiplayer in the old games, I know for a fact that when they used to gate you off from taking the vehicle into places, they would do it by just putting a big invisible wall where you couldn't go. I mean, you had like terrain that stopped you, but you literally couldn't get the vehicle. They don't do that in this. The thing that stops you is literally the little objects that create the barrier.
Yeah.
You can get that wheel bike in places it is not supposed to be.
Oh, I'm sure.
And that's a ton of fun.
Oh, I haven't tried that, actually.
I've had a lot of fun, like just cramming that thing between like posts and stuff.
Well, you could probably take it into like the dungeons where you're not supposed to have a vehicle at all.
I've gotten a couple in there, and like of course, if you come to a small door, you're screwed.
Right.
But at least it's just a fun thing you can do.
Yeah.
The other thing I didn't realize that the game does a lot of tutorial stuff, but doesn't tell you some of the stuff that I think would. You can fast travel to your vehicle.
Yeah.
No matter where you are.
The fast travel system in this is good.
Much more much
very
better.
generous.
But they don't really go into, and also my fast travel tutorial got stuck and kept repeating itself over and over again, trying to make me fast travel the same thing over and over again. So I had to just cancel it out. But so maybe it tells you that if you get past where the tutorial got stuck on mine. But like you don't have to, once you kill the boss in a dungeon, you do not have to run all the way back out. Just fast travel back to your freaking car.
Yeah. The fast travel's great. I mean, overall, like the difficulty's pretty well balanced. Like when you die, you have a last stand, and if you kill an enemy during that last stand, you'll revive.
Also in co-op, you will get the second wind even if someone else kills the enemy. You just have to you have to do damage to them.
Oh.
So people can't steal your second wind kill anymore.
Interesting. Yeah, there's been the times I've died is where I had already killed all the enemies and I had nobody to kill with my second wind.
Most of the times I've died has been because I killed all the extra guys and the boss took me down, and I couldn't kill the boss that fast.
Same.
So that was it.
Same here. Yeah. So it's good.
Always leave one bandit alive.
Yep. That's what you learn to do.
Yeah.
Like if you're in a boss fight, leave one of the minions alive because you're going to need him as like a revive. It's certainly an interesting strategy to follow while you're playing a game.
Although I will say, I found some good shields early on, but there's those little like milestone things that they constantly tell you other people on your friends list have been doing and stuff. You're filling up the bar.
It's a little annoying after a while.
A little bit. I know very well what Blair Herter is doing in this game. I'll tell you that much. But there's an early one for like healing like 50 health or something. I didn't get that for like 7 hours, because my shield was so good I would never get hurt
take that
enough
much damage
to have to require to heal. So I guess it is a little easy, but I think I got good drops for the shield early on.
Like even when you do die, the punishment for it is like nothing. It's like $100.
Well, it's a percentage.
Oh, it's a percentage.
Yeah, so I died with like 20,000 credits like a couple times once, and I lost like 4,000 or something.
I didn't realize.
I mean,
that.
you get it back like that. I mean, it doesn't matter.
You collect a lot of money, but most of it's like $8, $30.
Yeah, but it adds up, and then like you sell off all your stuff, and it's balanced. It's balanced well. It's annoying when you lose money for dying like that, especially. If
I've never been out of money.
No,
so whatever.
What do you use the money for, really? Anyway, I mean only if you see a weapon on the
purple weapons in the vending machine
as a special on one of the vending machines.
Purple grenades in the vending machine. That's it. Yeah.
Otherwise, you're getting your really good stuff from gold keys that Randy Pitchford tweets out.
Yeah. So okay, who buys this game? Borderlands fans, no brainer.
For sure.
If you weren't sick of Borderlands after the second one, go buy it. No problem. You're gonna love it.
Yes. If you want to play co-op with someone on a good thing, I think this. I'll tell you this: like I have more couples I know are playing this together than any other mainstream game I have seen in forever.
I could see that.
In fact, my brother-in-law texted me yesterday, and it's like, "Is it okay?" Because in the room I stay in at their house, which is where my mom lives with them too. I have a PS4 there to play stuff when I'm up there. And he texted me and said, "Can we move your PS4 downstairs so that your sister can play Borderlands with me downstairs?"
Hell yeah!
I'm like, yeah, just don't use my account.
Right.
And so they I guess they did that. But I'm like, I've never been asked that before.
They're excited for it.
My sister doesn't play games very often anymore. She used to play MMOs with him and their friends all the time before they had kids. but they're making time to play Borderlands together. So
I do think this might be the best third-party game, the best-selling third-party game.
It could be up there for sure, especially because that means they bought 2.
Yeah, I mean the last 2 have sold about 15 ultimately around.
I don't actually.
But that
know.
took like years for them to hit that.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's the third one. It's the end of the generation. The install base is huge. I think it could be the best-selling third-party game this year, even though it's coming out in September.
Definitely up there.
Yeah.
I mean, I would say it's going to be between this and Breakpoint.
Yeah, that's probably safe. Wait, when did Red Dead came out this year? Didn't
Red
it?
Dead was last year.
Oh, it was last year. That's right. Yeah. Yeah, so it probably will be. Yep.
Yeah. Nothing else of real note came out early in the year in terms
And
of
anything else that
sales.
comes out third-party, I think that might be Breakpoint's problem, is coming out so late.
Yeah, this has a head start.
Yeah,
by
a couple months.
I don't know. I mean, Wildlands sold
it did.
real
That,
hard,
me,
real fast.
To me, that was the biggest shocker of this generation.
Because
sold.
that was the thing, is like that game sold almost entirely to people who aren't us.
Yeah.
And like no one in my social circle talked about it. No one played it. No one did.
It's like it didn't exist.
No, but like it again is a reminder that the people who make these big games aren't us.
Yeah.
It's the 7 to 10 million people who just play like 2 things a year, and that's the one that they all picked.
They find the one that their friends latch onto, and
yeah.
I mean, wait, Vince is bringing up a good idea or a good point. Call of Duty.
Call of Duty does exist.
You know what? I just tend to.
Can you play 4-player co-op in a giant open world in Call of Duty?
Yeah, you can't.
I mean, that's the hook of
it. Won't outsell Call of Duty.
It's the hook of Breakpoint, but it's also the hook of. I mean, Wildlands didn't outsell Call of Duty that year either.
No.
But
I
it's
look
also
at
the
Call
hook
of
Borderlands.
I think I've just learned to subconsciously just eliminate Call of Duty from discussion like that.
Yeah, well,
because it's like a given. It's like it's going to be the best-selling third-party game. So
it's like, you don't count.
There's no fun
unless a Rockstar game's coming out.
Yeah,
it doesn't matter.
that's the only one that has a chance really to topple it. That's it, and it didn't. I mean, still Call of Duty ended up outselling Red Dead last year. So it's just the way it is.
Red Dead's got the legs though.
It does, absolutely.
Still going.
Yep. So that's it. That's it for Borderlands 3, and that's it for all our topics for today's episode. But before we go, we have a trailer of the week and what looks like it's going to be a pretty lengthy Q&A. As always, as we run the trailer of the week, get your questions into the chat. Go at Sifted Games so we can pluck it out from all you guys just talking to each other. Also see a lot of you guys subscribing via Twitch Prime right now. That is ideal because I can thank all you guys personally when we get back from the trailer of the week. You guys may be expecting a Japanese game for the trailer of the week this week because Tokyo Game Show just finished. But
you fools!
You are foolish! You are wrong! Our trailer of the week this week is for a game made in America. And I think it's a game that most people who do go to Sifted and do watch our podcast are going to be excited for. It is the first gameplay trailer for System Shock 3. Let's roll it.
There is no evil here. Only change. Run, rodent, run. You won't get far. Your species does not, in its current form, work as designed. Yet you resist. Your kind always reacts with violence. Your futile struggles entertain me. Our little dance has only just begun. Now comes the reckoning.
Starting to take pretty good shape.
Yeah.
I'm pretty excited for that.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah, you're right. It is Warren Spector.
Yeah.
Who I used to trust a lot. And
I still pretty much do.
Trust him, but not like I used to. Like I used to think he was like god tier video game developer. Now I think he's just good.
What changed your mind?
His last couple games, like Epic Mickey.
I loved Epic Mickey.
See, I thought they were good ideas. I just didn't like how they were executed.
I love the first one. I didn't love the second one.
Yeah. I don't hate them, but I just.
But I love the first one.
I mean, look, he was up here for me, man. Like after Deus Ex, I was like, he's like one of the top 3 developers in the world to me.
I got a lot of heat from my 5 out of 5 for Epic Mickey.
Oh.
But I can
see a way where you could get that.
Epic Mickey 2, I didn't review that one, but didn't hit me. Maybe because the novelty wasn't there anymore.
It veered off course a little bit,
Yeah.
honestly.
But did you do anything else since then?
Not really. He's made some small stuff, but nothing big.
Well, it'd be a good comeback.
Sometimes it's good to lower expectations, though, because then you get that pleasant surprise.
We also got the advantage maybe that I think a bulk of the audience doesn't even know what System Shock is.
Yeah.
So everybody can meet Shodan for the first time.
Yep. I'm excited for it. I think it looks good. Better than I thought it was going to look. I'll say that much. The month just turned over for Twitch Prime. So I know a lot of you guys who are watching it live right now, you guys have already subscribed via Twitch Prime. Anyone who's watching this on Sifted, on Patreon, on YouTube, it all just turned over. So if you could go back and just hit that button, it takes 5 seconds. You can give us $2.50. That would be great. But right now I'm going to thank everybody who just did it on our live stream. ETH Daemon, not Earth Demon, which I learned last week for the first time. 17 months, thank you. Chevelle Man 1979, 20 months, thank you. Freeze Frame Rate, 14 months, thank you, Mitch. Let's see. Justin Horman, 27 months. Have we even been doing it that long? Was he subscribing like before it even like happened? Maybe he picked up on it
that's
before.
Only a little over 2 years. We've been doing this since early 2015.
No, not Twitch Prime.
Oh, Twitch Prime?
Yeah.
I don't know. That might have been the whole
27
time.
months. You may be the record setter, Justin Horman. Thank you, brother. That's a long time. And thanks for using my emoji. I appreciate that as well. And typing butts. That's great. Joaquin Dragoon, thank you for the cheer, man. You just gave us a bunch of bits. That's awesome. Thank you. Who else we got for Twitch Prime? I think that's it. All right, let's get to some questions. Let's see. ETH Demon. This is a question for Matt. Oh. Have you considered buying a level/story skip to get to Shadowbringers? Honestly, it's by far my game of the year, and given what we know is coming out, I don't see anything beating it. But because it's behind 250 hours of leveling, most in the game's press won't see it.
I have considered it. I don't know. Like I hate jumping into late MMO stuff without knowing how to play it. So I think I need to play the base game a little longer, and I'll get kind of tired of it. And it's probably I'll consider it very seriously once I get to like around level 30-ish. Once I feel like I really have a handle on how everything plays. But I'm thinking about it. I feel like the praise that Shadowbringers is getting makes me feel like it's kind of hitting must-play status.
I mean, I hate MMOs, and like people are gushing over it so hardcore that I'm like, maybe I should play it. But there's no way after reading that question. That's not happening.
There is a thing you get for like I think it's like $5 or $7 or something. You jump right to it.
Oh.
And you can like create a character, upgrade your character or something to handle it and stuff.
Okay.
I mean, most of the MMOs with big expansions do that. Like it's like how in like Wrath of the Lich King you could create a Death Knight like right out of the gate.
Wasn't that the first WoW expansion to do that, though?
Yes.
Where they let you jump forward?
Yes.
Yeah. Let's see. SJD Swanland.
But it definitely is starting to look like at least one of us should play that by the end of the year.
Yeah, you're right. For Game of the Year discussion.
I think that one might be on me.
I'm not jumping on that grenade, Kyle. You know I'm not. SJD Swanland. What game genre or game type that you can't get into would you possibly like if they added your favorite genres and ideas to it? I'd like to see a 2D Metroidvania take on Battle Royale to get me interested in the latter. Interesting.
I mean, Battle Royale would probably be my pick. I don't know what you could possibly do to make me interested in it. Maybe you could make a Transformers version that plays as well as Apex Legends, as long as we're making shit up. That would never happen. Something like that, I guess. Or like a Star Wars one with just stormtroopers or something, or like 100 Jedi or some crap. Some sort of license trappings might make me interested. Giant, like I said, if Apex Legends were to add Titans, I would probably be enticed back in for that. But part of it is just like most of the stuff I don't play is because I don't have time or interest in devoting that much of my life to online games, like MOBAs. I understand the appeal of MOBAs.
What if they made a MOBA that was like Marvel characters?
They kind of did. They made a Transformers one.
Did they?
Yeah, it was very short-lived. I may never have gotten out of beta, but it still didn't work. It just I don't. It's my thing is I just don't. in my old age, I do not care whether I'm better at a game than you are or not, except fighting games. That's it.
Yeah.
That's just fighting games are in my DNA, but like I don't care who's better, and I don't care about getting good enough to be consistently good at it, and no amount of trappings is going to change that. And in terms
Fair.
of like single player stuff, I like everything. So
Yep. I mean, there aren't any genres that I really hate other than MMOs and survival games. And the thing with survival games is that they're already kind of wrapped up in other things that I do like. And therefore, I do suffer through them. Not the hardcore ones.
Yeah, but there are survival games I do like. Yeah, I wouldn't put that as one of my. It's all same with roguelikes. Roguelikes I generally don't like, but there are like 3 roguelikes I really love.
Yeah.
So it all depends how you put it together. There aren't really any genres that I just say I hate every single game in this genre. Even Battle Royale, I like Apex Legends. I just don't. I'm just not dedicated enough to play it all the time.
Yeah, you could create an MMO that was nothing but Pittsburgh sports stars, and I still wouldn't be interested in playing it. It's
Well,
just
what if it
not
played
my
like a
cup of
real
tea.
game?
Then, yeah, I would.
You know, like
Yeah.
there's been MMOs. That, there was a God, I can't remember what it was, but it was an MMO. It was like a fantasy style thing. I think, but it was like I want to say it was made in like Singapore or Southeast Asia somewhere, and it was very anime looking characters, but the rest of the design was very sort of like straight Western fantasy, and it was all combo like action like beat 'em up based, and it was actually pretty fun to play. It was free to play. I can't remember the name of the damn thing, but it was actually a lot of fun to play, and it was one of the first MMOs I remember playing that was A, free to play, and B, almost completable entirely solo. And it was a long time ago, but I can't remember the name. It was a very generic name, but I enjoyed that. It was actually fun to play the game. That's the problem MMOs
my
have.
catch with MMOs. They're not
Yeah,
fun to
they
play.
aren't. Like I can name maybe 2. That one and I mean I enjoyed playing SWOTOR, but SWOTOR is still pretty much just WoW.
Yeah.
So
Not my forte. Great question, though. J. Reed Vic 7. With GTA 5 outselling Control in August, that's disgusting. And being in the top 10 bestsellers for 2019, that's double disgusting. Even ahead of Red Dead in 6, would you be excited about introducing new ideas into the marketplace? Yeah.
sure.
But as long as they're not the new ideas like we're getting with Death Stranding. The new ideas we're getting with Death Stranding. Yeah, I mean, I'm always open for... Look, we've been playing games for so long and so hardcore that, I mean, I can't speak for Matt, but for me personally, any new idea, I am going to soak it up. Like, we have a dearth of new ideas in the industry right now. I think Borderlands 3 is the poster boy for that. Even after all this time, it still was basically just Borderlands 2 with a couple quality of life fixes. So, yeah, I think, speaking for myself, any ideas coming in the marketplace, I think is a good idea. Like, I even think that even though, like, Death Stranding is starting to track in a way that I'm not that interested in, I still think it's good for the industry to have something that looks that bizarre and that weird while tying it in with, like, a B-list, like, celebrity that can get people who maybe don't play games to at least give it a look. Like, I like the concepts behind it and what they're trying to do with that game. So I think new ideas are what's going to keep this industry going. I think it's what's going to keep websites like Sifted alive and whatever comes after us alive long after we're gone. So, yeah, I think it's the lifeblood of the industry.
I think it's new ideas are good, but generally overrated. I think execution is more important most of the time. In fact, I think one of the reasons Borderlands 3 will be such a good seller is because they have executed on their old ideas in a very good way, in a very smooth and convincing way. And generally, I think I find that it tends to be more important, at least in the marketplace, in terms of sales and success, to take an old idea and make it really good. And that's what indie games have been doing for the last several, a half decade or more.
Yep.
Is like, almost all the indie games we played are not new ideas, but they are executed on in either a different way or a more thoughtful way than anyone has tried in a long time.
Agreed. Yeah.
And sometimes you don't even need a new idea. Sometimes something like Undertale is full of old ideas, but they're old ideas that no one has used in a long time and put together in a different order. And sometimes all you need.
You're right. Just rearranging the chairs sometimes makes a big difference.
Or just doing, look. I would never defend it because I think what they're doing is ridiculous. But Star Citizen, who would have thought you could get $250 million out of people for a space game?
I mean,
that's because.
The more crazy thing is that they continue to get money out of people.
Yes. But part of it is because no one makes these.
Yeah.
There was that.
People are begging
there was a
for it.
drought of those kinds of games for 15 years, and
you realize 15 years, that's a generation.
Yeah.
So not only are you going to satisfy people who wanted that genre and missed it for 15 years, there's a whole new rush of people who've never even seen it.
Yeah, but they're not the ones donating all the money.
No, of course not.
You go to the Star Citizen boards,
they just want to buy it and play it.
Well, you go to the Star Citizen boards, it's like people in their 50s and older, with tons of disposable income. Some of whom were sitting around saying, "Hey, if you don't make this game soon, I'm going to die before I get to play it." In its release candidate.
I laugh, but
the same thing with Bloodstained. Who's making Metroidvanias?
Yeah.
It's basically
indies.
Kickstarted Iga and indies, and sometimes Nintendo blesses us with a Metroid.
Yeah,
that's about it.
Yep.
So I would say new ideas are good, but also old ideas that no one else is using. If you can come up with a way to modify that for a modern take, modern audience, that's just as good.
Yep. Johnson Bow, thank you for subscribing via Twitch Prime, man. You rock. Let's see, maybe we'll answer one more. There's a bunch. All right, we'll answer this one from Justin Horman because he gave us all the bits. Justin Horman, the Genesis Mini is out in 2 days. Do you think the library of rare and great games, although missing some gems like Revenge of Shinobi, will help it sell well, or have the cheapo older units that were horrible left such a bad taste in the mouths of potential buyers that it's just turned them off to the idea of getting anything like this Genesis-related anymore? It doesn't seem like they're doing much distancing from the older units in ads. So yeah, there's been the M2. The M2, by all accounts, seems to be the better option.
It is.
And it's old.
But it's also not as easy to find.
Right.
I don't know. I think this is such a niche audience, Sega retro.
Yeah.
That most of the people who are interested in this are going to know the difference and are aware of sort of the run up to all this. And
he's right though. I remember I went into Radio Shack over the holidays 5 years ago when Radio Shack still existed, and they were selling Genesis
terrible
micro,
Genesis things with a bad sound. I remember. I remember. You can still go buy those right
probably.
Now. I'm still gonna buy one, and I've never bought one of those Genesis things because real Sega fans know the difference between crap and good. So that's why we're Sega fans. So I'm not too worried about that in terms of kind of the audience they must be aiming for, but it's not going to be a hit in the way that the NES Classic or the Super Nintendo Classic were at all.
Well, I think Sony learned that with the PlayStation 1 Classic.
Yes, that was absolutely true. And if you want to see that happen again, we got a TurboGrafx Classic coming up. Now, the thing about the TurboGrafx Classic, actually, though, is it's probably one of the best treatments of a classic mini console I've ever seen. It's got both the Japanese and U.S. release versions of them. There are two different libraries for each, and they're both included. They're doing it completely right on that thing, and no one is going to care.
No, don't care. It's like a tree falls in the wood, and there's no one there to hear it.
Did it
really fall?
I'll be in the woods to be hit by that tree because I love the TurboGrafx.
Okay. That's it for GameFace episode 182. Thanks to everybody who was on chat. Thanks to everybody who contributed via Twitch Prime. Again, it just turned over, so all you folks can hit that button again. Don't smash the like button. Hit the Twitch Prime button. I'm going to start my own dumb saying for YouTube. But anyway, thanks again, everyone who showed up on the stream. You guys made it a ton of fun. Lots of great comments in there. As I said, Ask Shane Anything questions going up tomorrow. Make sure you get in there because without you guys, there is no show. Next round of Pachter Factor starts tomorrow, so look for that. We'll have a double dip. We'll have GameFace in the morning and Pachter Factor in the evening. So it's going to be a good week on Sifted. It's going to be a great month for video games. We'll see you back here at our normal day and time next Tuesday at 1 p.m. Pacific. GameFace is up and out.